Before pyramids rose from the desert, before pharaohs ruled beside the Nile, before temples echoed with hymns to the gods, there was nothing. No earth, no sky, no sunlight, no life, only endless darkness and infinite water. The ancient Egyptians called it none, the primordial abyss, the boundless waters that existed before creation itself. Before the world. Egyptian mythology does not begin with war or kings. It begins with silence. A limitless ocean stretching forever in every direction. Cold, dark, motionless, without shape or time. None was not merely water, it was pure potential. Unformed existence. Chaos before order, the unknowable state before reality awakened. Everything slept within it. Even the gods had not yet emerged. Chaos was not evil to the ancient Egyptians. Chaos was not automatically wicked. None was dangerous and formless, but also necessary. Because from chaos, creation becomes possible. This is one of the central ideas of Egyptian mythology. Open quote, order must constantly rise from surrounding chaos. Close quote, the universe survives only because balance is maintained against the endless waters waiting beyond it. The first sunrise, then something impossible happened. From the dark waters, a mound of earth emerged. The first land, the first stability, the first place where existence could stand against chaos. This mirrored Egypt itself. Each year, the Nile flooded the land and then receded, revealing fertile earth emerging from water once more. Creation repeated itself constantly in the Egyptian landscape. The birth of the creator. Upon the first mound appeared the creator god. Different cities told the story differently. Atum, Ra, Ptah, or other creator deities. But the image remained the same, a solitary divine being rising from infinite darkness into the first dawn. The creator stood alone in silent eternity before all other life existed. The self-created god. In one of the oldest traditions, the creator is Atum, a god who creates himself from none. He has no parents, no origin, no creator before him. He simply awakens within the abyss. This makes Atum deeply mysterious. A divine intelligence emerging from absolute nothingness. The first gods of air and moisture. Atum begins creation by bringing forth Shu, god of air, and Tefnut, goddess of moisture. These become the first separation within existence, air above, moisture below. For the Egyptians, creation often begins through separation. Sky from earth, light from darkness, order from chaos. Structure itself becomes sacred. The birth of the cosmos. From these first gods come others. Geb, the earth, Nut, the sky, Osiris, Isis, Set, Nephthys. The divine family tree of Egypt slowly unfolds from the primordial waters. The cosmos becomes alive. Every force of nature gains personality and sacred meaning. None never truly vanished. Even after creation, none still exists. This is important. Chaos was not destroyed. It surrounds the ordered world endlessly. Beneath the earth, beyond the horizon. Underneath reality itself. The Egyptians believed order remained fragile. Without constant balance, the universe could collapse back into primordial darkness. Chaos beneath the sun. This fear appears again later through Apophis, the great serpent of chaos. Each night, as Ra journeys through the underworld, chaos attempts to devour the sun and return existence to darkness. Creation is not permanent. It must be defended endlessly. Egypt and the Nile. The mythology reflects Egyptian life perfectly. The Nile itself seemed miraculous. Water bringing life from barren land, fertile earth emerging from floods, order surviving beside deadly desert. To ancient Egyptians, the entire world already looked like creation mythology made real. Temples as recreation. Egyptian temples symbolized the first mound rising from none. Their sacred spaces represented stability, divine order, renewed creation. Every ritual performed inside temples helped maintain cosmic balance. Without ritual, chaos could return. Religion was not symbolic alone. It preserved reality itself. The sacred meaning of dawn. Every sunrise became deeply important. When the sun rose, it meant creation survived another night, chaos had been pushed back, order still endured. Morning itself was sacred victory. The first sunrise repeated eternally. Egyptian mythology feels calm and monumental on the surface, golden temples, eternal pyramids, orderly rituals. But beneath it lies constant tension, because surrounding the beautiful ordered world waits darkness, flood, serpent chaos, and the infinite waters of none. The universe survives through balance alone. Closing before the first dawn, Before the stars, before the gods, before humanity remembered its own name, there was only the silent abyss, dark waters stretching endlessly beneath an unborn sky. Then slowly a mound rose from the deep, and upon it the first light of creation touched the darkness for the very first time, beginning one of the oldest sacred worlds humanity would ever imagine. Episode 2. Ra, the solar king who sailed across eternity. Every morning, the people of ancient Egypt watched a miracle unfold. From the eastern horizon, the sun emerged once more. Golden light spilled across the Nile. Temple walls glowed red beneath dawn. Darkness retreated into the west. And to the ancient Egyptians, this was not merely sunrise. It was the triumph of a god. The eternal return of Ra, the solar king who sailed across heaven itself. Ra, Lord of the Sun Ra, was among the most powerful gods in all of Egypt. He was creator, ruler of the heavens, bringer of light, source of life. Without Ra, the world would collapse into darkness, cold, chaos, non-existence. The sun was not symbolic, it was divine presence visible in the sky. The solar boat of heaven. Egyptians imagined travelling across the sky aboard a sacred solar boat. Each day, he sailed from east to west, illuminating the world, sustaining life, watching over creation. But sunset was not the end of his journey. It was only the beginning of something far more dangerous. The journey through the underworld. When the sun disappeared beneath the horizon, Ra entered the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. There, during the long hours of night, he travelled through darkness, caverns, rivers of fire, gates guarded by terrifying beings, and regions filled with the dead. The peaceful daylight god became a traveller, moving through cosmic danger. Apophis, serpent of chaos. Waiting within the darkness was Ra's greatest enemy. Apophis, also called Apep, a colossal serpent of primordial chaos. Apophis was not merely a monster. He represented disorder, oblivion, destruction, the return of the universe to the chaos of none. Every night, the serpent attempted to destroy Ra and devour the sun itself. The eternal battle! As Ra's boat moved through the underworld, gods and spirits defended him against Apophis. The battles were cosmic. Storms of darkness, serpent coils around the solar boat, divine spears piercing chaos. The Egyptians believed these struggles happened every single night. Existence itself depended on Ra surviving until dawn. Why sunrise was sacred. When the sun rose again, it meant Ra had triumphed, creation endured. Chaos had been held back once more. Every sunrise became proof that cosmic order still survived. Morning was not routine, it was victory. Ra and divine kingship. Egyptian pharaohs were closely tied to Ra. Kings were seen as sons of Ra, earthly reflections of solar order, guardians of cosmic balance. To rule Egypt properly meant helping Ra maintain Ma'at, the sacred order of the universe. Kingship itself became a cosmic responsibility. The falcon and the solar disk. Ra was often depicted with a falcon's head, crowned by the solar disk, encircled by a protective serpent. These symbols carried enormous meaning. The falcon represented heavenly vision. The sun disk represented divine power. The serpent symbolized both danger and sacred protection. Egyptian imagery layered symbolism constantly. The aging sun god. Some myths describe Ra growing old. Humanity begins plotting against him. The world changes around him. This is unusual and deeply humanizing. Even the great solar king experiences exhaustion, vulnerability, distance from humanity. Egyptian mythology often gives its gods emotional and cosmic complexity. The secret name of Ra. One famous myth tells how Isis seeks Ra's hidden true name, because in Egyptian belief, knowing a being's true name grants power over them. Through cunning and magic, Isis forces Ra to reveal this secret. The story reveals how important language, names, and hidden knowledge were within Egyptian spirituality. Words themselves possessed supernatural force. Ra and the structure of time. Ra's journey defined time itself. Day and night existed because of his movement. Dawn, noon, sunset, midnight. The universe became cyclical rather than linear. Life, death, and rebirth repeated eternally, just like the sun. Temples of the sun. Great temples honoured Ra throughout Egypt. Obelisks reflected frozen rays of sunlight. Open courtyards welcomed the dawn. Priests performed rituals timed to the movement of the sun. These temples helped maintain harmony between heaven, earth, and the divine order sustaining creation. But the fragile order of the cosmos. Egyptian mythology constantly emphasizes one truth: order is fragile. Each night, the universe approaches destruction again. Only through divine struggle, sacred rituals, cosmic balance does the world continue. The battle against chaos never truly ends. Ra's many forms. Over time, Ra merged with other gods: Amun-Ra, Ra-Horakhti, Atum-Ra. Egyptian religion evolved constantly, blending local traditions into enormous interconnected systems. Yet Ra always remained central, the visible heartbeat of the cosmos itself. Closing, beneath the setting sun. Evening settles across ancient Egypt. The Nile reflects crimson light, while temple priests light incense beneath towering stone columns. Far to the west, the sun disappears beyond the horizon. And somewhere beneath the earth, Ra begins his dangerous journey once more, sailing through darkness toward another dawn, while the great serpent of chaos waits in the shadows below the world. Episode 3: Osiris, Death, Resurrection, and the First King of Egypt. Before Egypt became the land of pyramids and tombs, before mummies were wrapped in linen for eternity, there was a god who taught humanity kingship, agriculture, law, and civilization itself. His name was Osiris, and his death would change the fate of every soul forever. Osiris, the divine king. Osiris was not originally a god of the dead. At first he was a king, a sacred ruler who brought order to humanity. Farming, justice, rituals, peace. Under his reign, Egypt flourished. The Nile flooded properly. Crops grew tall beside the river. Civilization prospered beneath divine harmony. Osiris became the image of perfect kingship. Set, brother of storms and violence. But not all forces welcomed order. Osiris had a brother, Set, god of deserts, storms, chaos, violence, foreign lands. Where Osiris represented fertile life beside the Nile, Set embodied the harsh red wilderness beyond it. The two gods became opposites: life and barrenness, order and disruption, civilization and chaos. Jealousy among the gods. As Osiris grew beloved among gods and humans alike, Set's envy deepened. Some myths portray him as resentful of Osiris's power. Others describe deeper cosmic rivalry between order and chaos itself. Eventually, Set decides to destroy his brother. And with that decision, Egyptian mythology changes forever. The coffin of betrayal. Set devises a cruel trap. At a great feast, he presents a magnificent coffin crafted precisely to Osiris' size. He promises it as a gift to whoever fits inside perfectly. One by one, guests try and fail. Then Osiris enters. Immediately, Set's followers slam the lid shut, and the lid shut. The coffin is sealed, weighted, thrown into the Nile. The divine king vanishes beneath dark waters. Death enters the world of the gods. This moment is enormous in Egyptian mythology because Osiris becomes one of the first gods to truly die. The sacred king is drowned, entombed, lost beneath chaos. The ordered world fractures, and Egypt enters mourning. Isis begins her search. Osiris' wife, Isis refuses to surrender him to death. She journeys across rivers, marshes, foreign lands, searching for the body of her husband. Her grief becomes one of the most powerful emotional forces in Egyptian mythology. She is not merely mourning, she is defying oblivion itself. The coffin in the sacred tree. Eventually, the coffin washes ashore far away. A great tree grows around it, enclosing the body within its trunk. This strange imagery reflects Egyptian themes of death, rebirth, vegetation, cyclical renewal. Even in death, Osiris becomes connected to returning life. Set's final desecration. When Isis recovers Osiris, Set discovers the body once more. In fury, he tears Osiris apart into pieces and scatters them across Egypt. This is not just murder, it is attempted annihilation, the destruction of identity, memory, and sacred order itself. The first mummification, but Isis does not abandon him. Together with Nephthys, Anubis, and sacred funerary magic, she gathers the scattered pieces. They wrap Osiris in linen, perform rituals, speak sacred words. In many traditions, this becomes the first mummification. Death is transformed into preservation. Resurrection through magic. Through her devotion and magical power, Isis restores Osiris briefly to life. Long enough to conceive. Horus, the falcon-headed child destined to challenge Set. This moment becomes one of the oldest resurrection myths in human history. Osiris becomes Lord of the Dead. Osiris does not fully return to the living world. Instead, he descends into the underworld. There he becomes ruler of the dead, judge of souls, king beyond death, lord of eternal rebirth. His own death creates the structure of the Egyptian afterlife itself. Resurrection and the Nile. Osiris became deeply tied to vegetation, seasonal flooding, renewal after death. Just as the Nile floods and recedes, life returns after apparent destruction. Egyptians saw resurrection woven directly into nature. Death was not absolute ending, it was transformation. The myth of Osiris shaped Egyptian burial practices for thousands of years. If Osiris survived death through preservation, ritual, sacred words, then humans might as well. Mummification became preparation for eternal continuation. The tomb became a gateway rather than an ending, the struggle between order and chaos. The Osiris myth reflects one of Egypt's deepest beliefs. Order is always threatened by chaos. Set can wound creation, destroy kings, scatter bodies, but through ritual, memory, devotion, and sacred balance, order can rise again. The promise of eternal life. Before Osiris, death was terrifying and uncertain. After Osiris, there becomes hope. If the god himself died, was restored, and ruled eternally beyond the grave, then perhaps humanity could follow the same path. This idea shaped Egyptian spirituality for millennia. Beside the Nile, night settles across ancient Egypt. The Nile moves silently beneath the moon while temple mourners chant prayers for the dead. Deep within hidden tomb chambers, priests wrap bodies carefully in linen beneath the watchful eyes of Anubis. And somewhere beyond the world of the living, Osiris sits upon his dark throne, the once murdered king who transformed death itself into the promise of eternity. Isis, goddess of magic, motherhood, and divine power. Among all the gods of ancient Egypt, few inspired as much devotion, love, and reverence as Isis. She was healer, queen, magician, mourner, protector of children, keeper of sacred knowledge. But Isis was more than gentle motherhood. She was one of the most powerful magical beings in Egyptian mythology. A goddess capable of resurrecting the dead, outwitting gods, controlling hidden names, and challenging fate itself. The great goddess of Egypt, Isis belonged to the divine family born from Geb, the earth, and Nut, the sky. She became sister and wife to Osiris and mother of Horus. But over time, her influence grew far beyond these roles. Across Egypt, people prayed to Isis for healing, protection, fertility, guidance, and magical aid. She became one of the most beloved deities of the ancient world. Egyptians believed magic was real. They called it Heka, a sacred force woven into creation itself, and Isis mastered it more completely than nearly any other god. Her power came not through brute strength, but through wisdom, secret knowledge, spoken words, hidden names. In Egyptian belief, knowledge itself created power. The secret name of Ra. One of the most famous myths tells how Isis sought the hidden true name of Ra because true names contain divine essence. To know a being's secret name meant gaining influence over them. So Isis devises a plan. She creates a magical serpent from clay and Ra's own divine saliva. The serpent bites the aging sun god, and no god can heal him. The poison of the sun god Ra writhes in agony as divine poison spreads through him. The gods panic, but Isis already knows the cure. She refuses to heal him unless he reveals his secret true name, the hidden identity known only to himself. At last, weakened and desperate, Ra reveals it, and Isis gains extraordinary divine power. Wisdom over force. This myth is important because Isis does not conquer through violence. She triumphs through intelligence, patience, magical understanding. Egyptian mythology often values wisdom as much as physical strength. Words themselves become sacred weapons. Isis and the grief of Osiris. Yet Isis is remembered most powerfully through her love for Osiris. After Set murders and dismembers him, Isis refuses to surrender him to oblivion. She searches endlessly across Egypt, through marshes, temples, riverbanks, and hidden lands. Her devotion becomes stronger than death itself. The first mourner. Egyptian funeral rites were deeply shaped by Isis. Priestesses often imitated her mourning rituals, wailing, chanting, ritual lamentation, because Isis represented sacred grief, love refusing to vanish even in the face of death. Her sorrow became holy. Resurrection through magic. With the aid of Nephthys, Anubis, and sacred rituals, Isis gathers the broken body of Osiris. She wraps him in linen, speaks magical words, breathes life back into him briefly. This moment becomes one of humanity's oldest resurrection myths. and Isis stands at its center. Mother of Horus. After Osiris descends into the underworld, Isis raises their son, Horus, but she must hide him because Set still rules violently. Many myths describe Isis protecting the child Horus in marshlands, hidden shelters, sacred wilderness. She defends him from serpents, demons, illness, assassins. The image of the Divine Mother protecting her child became one of Egypt's most enduring symbols. Healing and protection. Ordinary Egyptians invoked Isis constantly in daily life. Amulets, spells, and prayers called upon her for safe childbirth, healing sickness, protection from venom, safety for children. She became a deeply personal goddess, close to human suffering and hope. Isis beyond Egypt. Over centuries, the worship of Isis spread far beyond Egypt, Greece, Rome, the Mediterranean world. Temples dedicated to her appeared across distant lands. Even foreign peoples became fascinated by her mystery, compassion, magical wisdom, and power over fate. She evolved into one of the ancient world's truly universal goddesses. Wings of protection. Egyptian art often shows Isis with enormous wings spread wide around. Tombs, kings, the dead, sacred spaces. Her wings symbolized protection, shelter, magical embrace. To be guarded by Isis meant standing beneath divine care itself. Magic as cosmic balance. For Egyptians, magic was not unnatural, it was part of the structure of reality. Isis represented the proper use of sacred power, restoring order, healing suffering, preserving life, protecting the vulnerable. Her magic defended creation against chaos. The human heart of Egyptian mythology. Isis remains emotionally powerful because her myths feel deeply human. Grief, love, determination, maternal protection, refusal to surrender hope. She is not distant perfection. She suffers, searches, mourns, and fights against loss itself. Closing beneath the wings of Isis, night settles over the Nile. Temple candles flicker while mourners whisper prayers beside painted tomb walls. Somewhere in the reeds, the goddess Isis watches over the sleeping child Horus beneath the stars. And across ancient Egypt, people continue calling her name, the great magician, the faithful wife, the mother with outstretched wings whose sacred power could challenge even death itself. Episode 5. Set, Lord of Storms, Chaos, and the Red Desert. Among the gods of ancient Egypt, none were feared, misunderstood, or more dangerous than Set, god of storms, deserts, violence, darkness, foreign lands, and chaos itself. To later generations, Set became the villain who murdered Osiris. But the ancient Egyptians saw something more complicated. Because without Set, the universe might not survive at all. Lord of the Red Land, Egypt itself was divided into two worlds. The fertile black soil beside the Nile, and the endless red desert beyond it. The Egyptians called the desert the Red Land, a place of heat, drought, isolation, death, and danger. And Set ruled over it. He embodied the harsh wilderness beyond civilization. The god of storms. Unlike the calm fertility of Osiris, Set represented violent natural force. Thunder, sandstorms, desert winds, sudden destruction. To ancient Egyptians, storms were terrifying reminders that nature could become hostile without warning. Set became the divine face of that fear. The strange animal of Set. Set appears unlike almost every other Egyptian god. He is often depicted with the mysterious Set animal, a strange creature with tall, squared ears, curved snout, forked tail. No one knows exactly what animal inspired it. It may have been composite, symbolic, or intentionally unnatural. Even his appearance feels unsettling, a god who does not fully belong within the ordered world. Chaos was necessary. This is one of the most important ideas in Egyptian mythology. Chaos was dangerous, but necessary. Without Set, storms would not move, deserts would not exist, foreign threats would go unchecked, balance itself would weaken. Egyptian spirituality did not believe chaos could be erased completely. It had to be controlled and balanced. The murder of Osiris, Set's most infamous act, is the killing of his brother, Osiris. Driven by jealousy, rage, or cosmic opposition, he traps Osiris in a coffin and casts him into the Nile. Later, he dismembers the body and scatters the pieces across Egypt. This act becomes the great wound at the center of Egyptian mythology, the disruption of divine order itself. Enemy of Horus. After Osiris' death, Set clashes with Horus, the falcon-headed son of Isis and Osiris. Their conflict becomes one of mythology's greatest divine rivalries: desert against fertile land, storm against kingship, chaos against order. The struggle lasts for years in some traditions, filled with battles, trials, magical contests, divine judgment. The Eye of Horus. During one battle, Set damages Horus' eye. The eye is later restored through sacred magic. This becomes the Eye of Horus, one of Egypt's most powerful symbols of healing, restoration, protection, wholeness after destruction. Even from chaos, balance can be restored. Set and the boat of Ra. Yet despite his violence, Set is not purely evil. In some myths, he becomes one of the defenders of Ra. Each night, as the sun god travels through the underworld, the serpent Apophis attacks the solar boat, and Set, fierce, violent, terrifying, Set stands at the prow with a spear, fighting chaos itself. This creates a fascinating paradox: the god of chaos battling a greater chaos. Chaos against oblivion. Apophis represents absolute annihilation, the destruction of existence itself. Set represents dangerous disorder within creation, but not total destruction. This distinction mattered deeply. Some chaos could exist within balance, but primordial oblivion could not be allowed to win. Foreign lands and fear of the unknown. Set also became associated with outsiders, deserts beyond Egypt, strange territories, invading peoples. The unknown world beyond the Nile often felt threatening and unstable. Set became the divine embodiment of that dangerous frontier. Changing views of Set. Over centuries, Egyptian attitudes towards Set changed dramatically. At times, he was honoured, worshipped, even associated with royal power. Later, especially after foreign invasions, he became increasingly demonized. The god, once seen as necessary chaos, slowly transformed into a darker figure of evil and betrayal. The balance of the universe. Set reveals something profound about Egyptian belief. The universe survives through balance, not perfection. Too much chaos destroys order, but total stillness would destroy life as well. Storms, violence, and disruption remain part of existence. Set personifies the dangerous forces creation can never fully escape. Closing. Beneath the desert storm. Night falls across the Egyptian desert. Wind moves across red dunes beneath a sky filled with cold stars. Far beyond the fertile Nile, sandstorms rise in the darkness like living shadows. And somewhere within that endless wilderness, the god Set still walks, lord of storms and chaos, enemy and protector alike, a reminder that even the ordered world of Egypt was always surrounded by the wild and untamable unknown. Episode 6. Horus, falcon, god of kings and revenge. After the murder of Osiris, Egypt changed. The rightful king was dead. Chaos spread across the land. Set ruled through fear and violence. But hidden far from the throne, a child was growing in secrecy. A divine heir, a god born from grief, magic and vengeance. Horus Falcon, lord of the sky, protector of kings, avenger of Osiris. The child hidden in the marshes. After resurrecting Osiris briefly, Isis gives birth to Horus. But the child is in terrible danger. Set seeks to destroy him before he can challenge the throne. So Isis hides Horus within marshlands, papyrus reeds, secret places beyond Set's reach. There, beneath the protection of magic, the child god grows in silence. Egypt's sacred marshes. The marshes were deeply symbolic in Egyptian mythology. They represented hidden life, protection, rebirth, the boundary between order and chaos. Many myths place vulnerable divine beings there. The reeds conceal and preserve sacred destiny itself, the dangers surrounding the divine child. As Horus grows, many dangers threaten him. Venomous serpents, scorpions, sickness, demons, assassins sent by Set. Some myths describe Horus becoming poisoned or gravely ill, and Isis, through sacred magic and desperate prayer, heals him repeatedly. These stories made Horus closely associated with healing rituals, protection spells, childhood safety. Horus the falcon. Horus is usually depicted as a falcon or a man with a falcon's head. The falcon symbolized kingship, heavenly vision, dominance of the skies. To ancient Egyptians, the falcon soaring above the Nile appeared majestic and godlike, a perfect image for divine rulership. The war against Set. When Horus comes of age, he challenges Set for the throne of Egypt. Their conflict becomes one of Egyptian mythology's greatest struggles. Order against chaos, rightful kingship against violent usurpation, fertile Nile against barren desert. The battles are brutal and strange. River combat, transformations into animals, magical contests, divine trials before the gods themselves. The gods become judges. Eventually, the gods gather to decide who should rule Egypt. The dispute lasts years in some traditions. Even the divine world becomes divided. Some gods support Horus, others fear Set's strength, some simply seek balance. This reveals something fascinating. Egyptian mythology often portrays the gods as political and emotionally complex beings, not distant perfection. The Eye of Horus. During one violent battle, Set tears out or damages Horus's eye. The eye is later restored through divine healing. This becomes the Eye of Horus, also called Wedjat, one of Egypt's most sacred symbols. It represented healing, restoration, protection, wholeness, triumph after suffering. The restored eye symbolized order repaired after chaos. Some traditions connect the damaged eye to the moon. As the moon wanes and grows again, the Eye of Horus becomes linked to cyclical restoration, cosmic renewal, healing over time. Egyptian mythology constantly reflects patterns found in nature itself. Horus and the pharaohs. Every Egyptian pharaoh became associated with Horus. The king was seen as the living Horus upon earth, divine protector of Egypt, guardian of Ma'at, the sacred cosmic order. This made kingship supernatural. To rebel against the pharaoh could become rebellion against divine balance itself. Horus wins the throne. In most versions, Horus ultimately triumphs. Set is defeated, judged, or driven into the wilderness. Order returns. The son restores what the father lost. This victory became one of the foundational myths of Egyptian civilization, the rightful ruler overcoming chaos and restoring harmony to the world. Osiris remains below. Even after Horus claims the throne, Osiris does not return to earthly rule. He remains lord of the underworld. This creates a sacred division. Horus rules the living, Osiris rules the dead. Together, father and son govern both realms of existence. The falcon above Egypt temples dedicated to Horus rose throughout Egypt. Massive falcon statues watched over sacred courtyards. Priests carried golden images of the god during festivals. Kings invoked Horus before battle and coronation alike. The falcon god became woven into nearly every aspect of Egyptian rulership. Revenge and restoration. Unlike simple revenge stories, the myth of Horus carries deeper meaning. The goal is not destruction alone. It is restoration, healing what was broken, reclaiming rightful balance, rebuilding order after violence. This reflects the Egyptian obsession with cosmic harmony. Closing, beneath the falcon's sky, evening settles across the Nile. High above the river, a falcon circles silently through crimson sunset skies. Temple banners move gently in the wind, while priests light sacred fires beneath towering stone pillars. And somewhere beyond the world of mortals, Horus still watches over Egypt, the hidden child who rose from grief and exile to become guardian of kings and defender of divine order itself. Episode 7, Anubis and the Weighing of the Heart. In ancient Egypt, death was not the end. It was a journey, a dangerous passage into a hidden world filled with gates, spirits, monsters, divine judges, and terrifying trials. And standing at the threshold between life and eternity waited one of Egypt's most iconic gods, Anubis, guardian of tombs, protector of the dead, guide through the darkness beyond the grave. The jackal god of the dead, Anubis is usually depicted as a black jackal or a man with a jackal's head. The image came from a grim reality. Jackals often wandered near cemeteries at the edge of the desert. To ancient Egyptians, these animals became linked with graves, death, protection of the dead. But Anubis was not feared as evil. He guarded the dead rather than hunted them. A lord of mummification. After Set murdered Osiris, Anubis helped gather the body, prepare it, wrap it in sacred linen. Through this act, he became patron of embalming, funerary rites, preservation of the dead. Egyptian embalmers even wore jackal masks during rituals, becoming living reflections of Anubis himself. Why the dead were preserved. The Egyptians believed the soul needed the body to survive properly in the afterlife. If the body decayed completely, the spirit risked confusion, destruction, wandering eternally. Mummification protected identity itself, and Anubis became guardian of that sacred preservation. The Duat, the Egyptian underworld. This was not a peaceful paradise. It was a vast supernatural realm filled with darkness, rivers, gates, demons, monstrous guardians, magical dangers. The dead needed guidance to survive it. Anubis became the psychopomp, the divine guide leading souls through the unseen world. Ah, the Hall of Judgment. At the center of the afterlife stood one of Egypt's most famous scenes, the weighing of the heart. Here, the soul faced divine judgment before Osiris and the gods. Anubis carefully placed the deceased's heart upon sacred scales. On the opposite side rested the feather of Ma'at, symbol of truth, balance, justice, cosmic order. The heart as the soul. The Egyptians believed the heart contained memory, morality, personality, conscience. Unlike modern ideas centered on the brain, the heart represented the true self. Nothing could be hidden from the scales. Every action carried spiritual weight. The feather of Ma'at. If the heart balanced with the feather, the soul proved worthy. The deceased could enter eternal existence, peaceful fields, divine company, life beyond death. But if the heart was heavy with wrongdoing, something horrifying awaited. Devourer of souls, beside the scales crouched Amit, a terrifying hybrid creature with crocodile head, lion body, hippopotamus form. She was not a ruler of the dead, she was annihilation itself. If the soul failed judgment, Amit devoured the heart. This was the true Egyptian nightmare. Not torment, but complete erasure. To cease existing forever. Thoth records the judgment. Nearby stood Thoth, god of wisdom and writing. He recorded the results of the weighing. Nothing escaped divine record. The judgment became cosmic truth preserved eternally. Spells for survival. Because the afterlife was dangerous, Egyptians buried the dead with magical texts, prayers, passwords, protective spells. These later became known as the Book of the Dead. The soul needed sacred knowledge to survive the Duat successfully. Death itself required preparation. Morality and cosmic balance. The weighing of the heart reveals something remarkable. Egyptian morality was tied directly to cosmic order. To live unjustly threatened, balance, harmony, Ma'at itself, ethics became woven into the structure of the universe. Tombs as eternal homes. Egyptian tombs were carefully filled with food, statues, treasures, protective amulets, sacred inscriptions. The tomb was not simply a grave, it was a bridge between worlds, a place where the dead continued existing eternally under divine protection. Anubis as compassionate guide. Unlike many death gods from other mythologies, Anubis feels strangely calm. He does not hunt souls, he guides them. He protects the vulnerable dead as they move through fear and uncertainty toward judgment. In Egyptian imagination, death required guardianship, not merely punishment. The fear beneath Egyptian eternity. Despite their magnificent tombs and promises of eternal life, Egyptians deeply feared forgetting, decay, spiritual destruction, losing identity after death. The rituals surrounding Anubis existed to resist oblivion itself. The eternal hope beyond death. Because of Osiris and Anubis, death became survivable. The soul could continue, the body could endure, the spirit might reach eternity. This hope shaped Egyptian civilization for thousands of years. Closing. Beside the scales of judgment, deep within the Duat, torches burn beside black stone halls where the dead stand silently before the scales. Anubis waits beside them, calm and watchful beneath the flickering light, and one by one he lifts the hearts of humanity, weighing every soul against the feather of eternal truth, while the fate of the dead hangs silently in the balance. Episode 8, Sekhmet, the lioness who nearly destroyed humanity. Among all the gods of Egypt, few inspired as much fear as Sekhmet, lioness goddess of war, plague, fire, wrath, destruction. Her breath was said to create the desert wind, her eyes burned with the fury of the sun. And according to one terrifying myth, Sekhmet once came close to destroying humanity itself. The wrath of Ra. As Ra grew older, humanity began to rebel against him. People mocked the gods, plots spread in secret, the divine order of the world weakened. Ra, the aging sun king, became enraged, and from that fury he created Sekhmet, not as a gentle protector, but as divine punishment made flesh. The lioness appears. Sekhmet descended upon the earth like living fire. She was depicted as a lioness or a woman with the head of a lioness crowned by the solar disk. To Egyptians, the lioness represented terrifying natural power, predators of the wilderness, blazing heat, unstoppable violence. Sekhmet embodied raw destruction unleashed. The slaughter begins. Ra commands Sekhmet to punish humanity, and she obeys. The myths describe her rampaging across Egypt, hunting humans, staining the earth with blood, unleashing terror beneath the burning sun. She becomes more than wrath. She becomes bloodlust itself. Divine fury without restraint soon, even Ra becomes alarmed. Sekhmet's destruction grows beyond control. This is one of Egyptian mythology's recurring fears, that divine forces maintaining order may themselves become catastrophic if unbalanced. The lioness goddess no longer simply punishes chaos, she threatens to consume the world entirely. The red beer trick. Unable to stop her through force, the gods devise a different plan. They flood the land with enormous quantities of beer dyed red like blood. When Sekhmet discovers it, she believes she has found a vast field of slaughter. She drinks deeply, but the beer intoxicates her, and eventually the raging lioness falls asleep. Humanity survives through cunning rather than battle. From Sekhmet to Hathor. Some versions of the myth suggest Sekhmet transforms afterward into Hathor, the goddess of joy, music, love, and celebration. This transformation is fascinating. The same divine force capable of destruction, plague, and war can also become beauty, fertility, pleasure, and healing. Egyptian gods often contain opposing aspects within themselves. Goddess of plague and healing, Sekhmet became associated with disease, epidemics, fever, divine punishment. Yet paradoxically, she was also invoked for healing, medicine, protection against illness. The Egyptians believed the force causing sickness could also remove it. Destruction and healing emerged from the same source. Priests of Sekhmet. Sekhmet's priests were often connected with medicine. They studied healing rituals, protective magic, sacred remedies. To calm Sekhmet's wrath meant restoring balance within body and cosmos alike. Disease itself carried spiritual meaning. The dangerous power of the sun. Sekhmet was closely tied to the scorching power of the sun, not the nurturing sunlight of dawn, but the brutal midday heat capable of drought, exhaustion, death. She represented the deadly side of solar power. The Egyptians understood nature as both life-giving and merciless. Wrath and cosmic balance. The myth of Sekhmet reveals an important Egyptian truth. Even divine justice can become excessive. Balance matters above all else. Too much chaos destroys order, but uncontrolled punishment can also destroy creation. The universe survives through equilibrium, not endless violence. Sekhmet in battle. Pharaohs often invoked Sekhmet before war. Kings wished to unleash her fury against enemies. Temple inscriptions describe rulers becoming powerful like Sekhmet on the battlefield. Her violence became sacred weaponry in defense of Egypt. Fear and reverence. Sekhmet was both feared and worshipped intensely. People offered prayers seeking mercy, protection, healing, restraint of her anger. Because to anger Sekhmet meant inviting catastrophe itself. Yet to receive her favor meant divine protection against darkness and disease. The lioness within creation. Sekhmet represents something ancient and deeply human, the terrifying force hidden within both nature and emotion. Rage, violence, fire, blood. The Egyptians did not deny these forces existed. They gave them a face, a name, and rituals meant to keep them in balance. Closing beneath the burning sun. The desert wind moves across ancient Egypt beneath a blazing crimson sunset. Far beyond the Nile, lionesses move silently through the heat shimmer of the wilderness, and somewhere within the divine imagination of Egypt, Sekhmet still watches. Golden-eyed and terrible, the lioness who nearly drowned the world in blood before sleep and sacred cunning finally calmed her fury. Episode 9. Thoth, god of wisdom, writing, and moonlight. Long before libraries, before scholars filled temples with scrolls, before humanity recorded history in ink and stone, the ancient Egyptians believed all sacred knowledge came from one divine source. Thoth, god of wisdom, writing, magic, measurement, the moon, and the hidden order of the cosmos. He was the keeper of divine words, the god who measured time itself. The moon god of hidden knowledge, unlike Ra, whose blazing sunlight revealed the world openly, Thoth belonged to quieter mysteries, moonlight, reflection, calculation, secret understanding. The moon moved calmly through the darkness, measuring time above sleeping Egypt, and Thoth became its divine embodiment. The ibis-headed god. Thoth is usually depicted as a man with the head of an ibis, or sometimes as a sacred baboon. The ibis fascinated Egyptians because of its graceful movements, curved beak, patient stillness near water. It appeared intelligent, watchful, almost thoughtful, perfect for a god of wisdom and sacred writing. Inventor of writing. The Egyptians believed Thoth created writing, language, mathematics, sacred records. Every hieroglyph carried divine significance. Writing was not merely communication, it was sacred power captured in symbols. To write something down gave it permanence against time and death. A scribe of the gods. Thoth served as divine record keeper, advisor, cosmic scribe. He recorded judgments, names, spells, the movements of stars, and the fate of souls. Nothing escaped his knowledge. In Egyptian belief, the universe itself functioned through order, measurement, and sacred language. Thoth maintained that order through wisdom. Thoth at the weighing of the heart. In the Hall of Judgment, while Anubis weighs the soul, Thoth stands nearby recording the result. His role is crucial because divine judgment requires truth, memory, accurate record. Without Thoth, cosmic justice could not function. He preserves eternal truth beyond corruption or forgetting. Master of time and the stars. Egyptian priests carefully studied lunar cycles, stars, eclipses, sacred calendars, and all of this knowledge became associated with Thoth. He governed measurement, timekeeping, astronomy, the ordering of seasons. The rhythm of civilization itself moved through his calculations. The winning of the moon. One myth tells how Nut, goddess of the sky, was cursed so she could not give birth during any day of the year. Thoth intervenes. Through a clever contest, he wins extra moonlight and creates 5 additional days outside the normal calendar. On these sacred days, Nut gives birth to Osiris, Isis, Set, Nephthys, Horus the Elder. This story shows Thoth overcoming cosmic limitations through intelligence rather than force. Thoth and sacred magic. Thoth was deeply connected to Heka, the magical force underlying reality itself. Many spells and rituals invoked his authority. Because in Egyptian thought, words carried power, names shaped existence, spoken formulas could influence reality. Thoth understood the secret structure behind creation, keeper of forbidden knowledge. Some later legends claimed Thoth wrote mysterious books containing hidden spells, divine secrets, cosmic truths. These texts supposedly granted power over spirits, knowledge of the heavens, supernatural abilities, but they also carried danger. Wisdom without balance could become destructive. Wisdom over violence. Unlike warrior gods, Thoth rarely conquers through battle. His greatest weapons are intellect, language, strategy, understanding. This made him one of Egypt's most respected deities. He represents civilization's belief that knowledge itself is power. Patron of scribes and priests. Scribes throughout Egypt honored Thoth before writing. Because literacy was sacred and difficult, scribes formed an elite class connected to divine knowledge. To master writing meant entering the domain of Thoth himself. Every temple archive became part of his spiritual legacy. The balance between sun and moon. Ra and Thoth formed an important balance. Sun and moon, power and wisdom, visible light and hidden understanding. One illuminates the world openly. The other measures its deeper patterns quietly beneath the night sky. Together, they sustain cosmic harmony. The eternal memory of Egypt. Without Thoth, Egyptian civilization could not preserve myths, laws, rituals, prayers, history. He became the guardian of memory itself, and through writing, humanity gained the ability to speak across thousands of years. Closing beneath the moonlit temples. Night settles across ancient Egypt. Moonlight spills across temple columns, while scribes quietly press reed brushes against papyrus scrolls. Above them, the ibis-headed god watches silently beneath the stars, keeper of sacred words, guardian of hidden wisdom, and eternal recorder of the universe itself. Episode 10, Apophis, the serpent of chaos beneath the world. Every night in ancient Egypt, the universe nearly ended. As the sun disappeared beyond the western horizon, darkness swallowed the world, and beneath that darkness, deep within the underworld, something ancient waited, something older than kings, older than temples, perhaps even older than creation itself. Apophis, the great serpent of chaos, enemy of the sun, devourer of light. the endless force trying to drag the universe back into primordial darkness. Born from primordial chaos, Apophis was not merely a monster. He was chaos itself made flesh, a living reflection of Nun, the infinite dark waters before creation. Unlike other gods, Apophis was never part of divine order. He represented unmaking, disorder, oblivion, the collapse of existence itself. He did not want to rule the world, he wanted to erase it. The serpent beneath the earth. Egyptians imagined Apophis as an enormous serpent, vast enough to coil around mountains, hidden within the underworld, moving through darkness beneath creation. Serpents held complex meanings in Egypt: protection, rebirth, danger, hidden power. But Apophis represented the terrifying side of that symbolism, the predator hidden in cosmic darkness. Enemy of Ra. Each night, as Ra sailed through the Duat aboard the solar boat, Apophis attacked. This battle was eternal. The serpent attempted to swallow the sun, stop the journey of dawn, plunge existence back into chaos forever. If Apophis ever succeeded, creation itself would end. The battle in the underworld. The struggle between Ra and Apophis was violent and terrifying. Ancient texts describe storms, darkness, supernatural attacks, coils wrapping around the solar boat. The gods fought desperately to protect the sun. Set speared the serpent, protective deities cast spells, priests on earth performed rituals to aid the battle. The fate of the cosmos depended on victory before sunrise. Why chaos could never fully die. Unlike ordinary enemies, Apophis could never truly be destroyed, because chaos itself always exists beyond order. Even after defeat, the serpent returned every night. This reflects one of the deepest Egyptian beliefs. Order is temporary and fragile. The universe survives only through constant maintenance against surrounding disorder. Eclipses and storms. Strange natural events became associated with Apophis. Eclipses, violent storms, unusual darkness, sudden disruptions in nature. These moments felt like signs that chaos was briefly gaining strength. The Egyptians saw cosmic meaning within frightening natural phenomena. Rituals against the serpent. Egyptian priests performed rituals specifically designed to weaken Apophis. They recited protective spells, burned images of the serpent, stabbed symbolic representations, invoked divine protection. These ceremonies were not symbolic performances alone. The Egyptians believed they actively helped preserve creation itself. The Book of Overthrowing Apophis. Some surviving texts contain detailed instructions for combating the serpent spiritually. These include chants, curses, ritual destruction of serpent effigies. The existence of these texts reveals how seriously Egyptians took the threat of cosmic chaos. Religion became active defense against annihilation. Chaos beyond morality. Apophis differs from Set in an important way. Set represents dangerous disorder within creation, but Apophis represents absolute anti-creation, pure destruction without balance. That is why even Set, god of storms and chaos, sometimes fights against the serpent, because some chaos can exist within the universe. But Apophis would erase the universe entirely. Fear beneath Egyptian civilization. Egypt often appears calm and eternal. Pyramids, temples, golden sunlight beside the Nile. Yet beneath this beauty live profound anxiety. Floods, death, darkness, desert, collapse all threatened the fragile world humans had built. Apophis became the ultimate expression of those fears. Dawn as cosmic victory. Every sunrise carried immense spiritual meaning. When dawn arrived, it meant Ra survived. Apophis failed. Existence endured another night. Morning itself became proof that chaos had once again been defeated. The sun was victory visible in the sky. The eternal struggle. Egyptian mythology does not promise permanent triumph. Chaos never disappears forever. Instead, the universe survives through endless struggle. Rituals, divine vigilance, sacred balance, repeated renewal. The battle against darkness must continue eternally. The serpent beneath human fear. Apophis also represents something deeply psychological. The fear that order can collapse, darkness can return, civilization can vanish, meaning itself can be swallowed by oblivion. The serpent becomes the shape of humongous anxieties. Closing. Beneath the black waters. Deep beneath the world, beyond tombs and temples and mortal sight, the great serpent moves through endless darkness. Above, Egypt sleeps beneath the stars, while priests whisper protective hymns beside sacred fires. And somewhere within the underworld, Ra's solar boat cuts through shadow once more, while Apophis rises from the abyss, coiling through primordial night in his eternal attempt to devour the sun itself. 11. Bastet, Cat's protection and the hidden face of the goddess. In ancient Egypt, gods were rarely simple. They were layered beings, shifting between gentle and terrifying, soft and destructive, familiar and divine, and few gods show this duality more clearly than Bastet, goddess of protection, cats, music, joy, fertility, and the hidden warmth of the home. But beneath her gentle image lies something far older and more dangerous. The sacred cat of Egypt. Cats in ancient Egypt were not just animals, they were protectors. They guarded grain stores from rats, homes from snakes, families from unseen dangers. Because of this, cats became sacred beings, and Bastet became their divine embodiment. Goddess of the home. In her more familiar form, Bastet is gentle and nurturing. She protects mothers, children, households, daily life. She represents comfort, harmony, domestic peace. Her presence is felt in music, laughter, and warmth inside the home. Music, dance, and joy. Bastet is also a goddess of celebration. She is associated with rhythmic music, festivity, pleasure, emotional release. In temples dedicated to her, festivals could become lively and ecstatic, a release from the rigid order of daily life. She is joy, made divine. The hidden lioness. But Bastet was not always gentle. In earlier Egyptian traditions, she appeared as a lioness goddess of war and destruction, similar to Sekhmet. This older form of Bastet was fierce, aggressive, protective through violence. Over time, her nature softened into the cat, but the lioness never fully disappeared. Two faces of the same goddess. Bastet and Sekhmet are often understood as two sides of a single divine force. Sekhmet equals rage, destruction, war. Bastet equals protection, comfort, harmony. Both are necessary because protection sometimes requires strength, and strength must sometimes become peace. Egyptian mythology rarely separates opposites completely. Bastet was especially invoked by women for safe childbirth, fertility, protection of children. Amulets depicting cats or Bastet herself were common household objects. She represented divine care in the most vulnerable moments of human life. The cat as a lunar creature. Cats were also linked to the moon, quiet movement, night vision, mysterious behaviour. Like Thoth, Bastet carries a softer lunar association, a presence that watches in darkness rather than dominating it. Defender against serpents. One of Bastet's ancient roles was protection against snakes, venom, hidden danger. In a land where serpents were both real and symbolically powerful, this made her an essential guardian deity. The cat becomes the perfect symbol, silent, alert, deadly when needed. The city of Bubastis. Bastet's main cult centre was Bubastis, a city famous for its massive festivals honouring her. Ancient accounts describe joyful river processions, music, offerings, crowds gathering in celebration. It became one of Egypt's most beloved religious sites. Joy against chaos. Where Apophis represents cosmic chaos, Bastet represents balance through joy, not through battle, but through harmony, home, love, music, safety. She is the reminder that order is not only maintained through force, but also through care. The divine mystery of cats. Cats in Egypt were so sacred that harming one could be punished severely. Households mourned deceased cats. Mummified cats were buried with care. The animal itself became a living symbol of divine presence in daily life. Even today, Bastet remains one of the most recognizable Egyptian goddesses. She represents independence, protection, feminine strength, quiet power, a reminder that the divinity can exist in softness as well as fury. Closing beneath the purring shadows. Night settles over an ancient Egyptian home. A cat moves silently across the courtyard, glowing in the moonlight as it watches over sleeping families. Somewhere in the darkness, Bastet is present, not as thunder or flame, but as quiet protection, soft footsteps in the night, and the unseen guardian of warmth within the human world. Episode 12, The Book of the Dead, Spells for the Journey Beyond. For the ancient Egyptians, death was not peaceful sleep. It was a dangerous passage through a supernatural world filled with gates, demons, trials, hidden names, rivers of fire, and terrifying guardians. To survive this journey, the dead needed guidance. So the Egyptians created one of the most mysterious collections of sacred texts in human history, the Book of the Dead, a compilation of magical spells meant to guide the soul safely through eternity. Book. Despite its modern name, the Book of the Dead was not one fixed text. It was a collection of prayers, spells, instructions, hymns, magical formulas. Different tombs contained different versions. Some were short, others stretched across enormous papyrus scrolls filled with sacred illustrations. Each one became a map through the afterlife. Buried with the dead, the scrolls were placed inside tombs beside the deceased, because the Egyptians believed the soul would need this knowledge after death. Without proper guidance, a spirit could become lost, trapped, destroyed, or devoured within the Duat. Sacred words became tools for survival. Entering the Duat. After death, the soul entered the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. This realm was vast and terrifying. Endless darkness, lakes of fire, monstrous beings, enchanted gates, twisting caverns beneath the earth. The dead had to navigate it carefully. The Book of the Dead acted almost like a supernatural guidebook. Knowing names meant power. One of the most important Egyptian beliefs was this: to know the true name of something gave power over it. Many underworld gates were guarded by divine beings demanding passwords, sacred names, magical responses. If the soul answered incorrectly, it risked destruction. Knowledge itself became protection. Monsters of the underworld. The Duat was filled with horrifying creatures, serpent demons, knife-bearing guardians, hybrid beasts, devourers of souls. These beings tested the dead constantly. The afterlife was not guaranteed safety. It had to be earned and navigated. Preparing for judgment. Many spells focused on the coming judgment before Osiris. The deceased often recited declarations such as, "I have not stolen, I have not murdered, I have not betrayed." These became known as the negative confessions. The soul attempts to prove alignment with Ma'at, the sacred cosmic order. Protecting the heart. The Egyptians feared the heart might betray them during judgment. Some spells specifically begged the heart not to speak against its owner before the scales. Heart amulets were often buried with the dead for this reason. Even after death, the soul feared its own moral truth. Becoming one with the gods. The goal of the afterlife was not merely survival. It was transformation. The dead hoped to join Osiris, sail beside Ra, become eternal spirits among the gods. Death could elevate humanity into divine existence itself. Spells of transformation. Some texts contain bizarre and fascinating spells allowing the soul to transform into a falcon, lotus flower, swallow, serpent, divine being. These transformations symbolized freedom within the spiritual world. The soul became fluid and powerful after death. Sacred illustrations. The Book of the Dead is famous for its artwork. Gods with animal heads, glowing solar boats, scales of judgment, demons guarding gates. These were not merely decorative. Images themselves carried magical force. Art and spirituality were inseparable in Egypt. Egyptian tombs were carefully designed spiritual structures. Walls contained spells, symbols, sacred scenes, protective imagery. The tomb became an active supernatural environment helping preserve the soul eternally. Every inscription mattered. Fear of oblivion. Beneath all Egyptian funerary tradition lies one deep fear: to be forgotten, to vanish completely, to lose identity after death. The Book of the Dead existed to resist oblivion itself. Through names, memory, ritual, and sacred words, the soul could continue forever. Magic and knowledge as salvation. Unlike many later religions focused on faith alone, Egyptian afterlife belief relied heavily on preparation, ritual knowledge, sacred language, cosmic understanding. The universe operated through hidden laws, and survival required learning them. Closing within the tomb chamber, deep beneath the sands of Egypt, a tomb lies sealed in silence. Papyrus scrolls rest beside the wrapped dead, while painted gods stare eternally from stone walls lit only by flickering torchlight. And somewhere beyond the mortal world, a soul begins its journey through the Duat, guided by sacred spells whispered across thousands of years, seeking safe passage through darkness toward eternity itself. Episode 13, The Temples of Egypt, Houses of the Living Gods. To the ancient Egyptians, temples were not places where people gathered to worship together. They were something far more mysterious. A temple was believed to be the literal home of a god, a sacred point between heaven and earth, a place where divine power entered the world. Inside these massive stone sanctuaries, the gods were treated as living beings, fed, washed, dressed, awakened each morning by priests. The temple itself became a living bridge between humanity and the divine. Temples as the first creation. Egyptian temples symbolized the first mound, the sacred land rising from none at the beginning of creation. Everything about temple architecture reflected cosmic mythology. Floors represented the earth, ceilings became the heavens, columns resembled papyrus marshes from the dawn of the world. Entering a temple meant walking symbolically back toward the moment creation began. The axis between worlds. Temples were designed as sacred thresholds between gods and mortals, order and chaos, the visible and invisible worlds. The deeper one moved into a temple, the more sacred and restricted the space became. At the center stood the holiest chamber of all, the hidden sanctuary. Deep within the temple rested a small sacred shrine containing the image of the god. This was not seen as a mere statue. The Egyptians believed divine presence could inhabit it. The god truly lived there. Only high priests and pharaohs could enter these inner chambers regularly. To step inside was to stand before living divinity. The daily awakening of the gods. Every morning, priests performed rituals to awaken the deity. The god's image would be washed, clothed, perfumed with oils, adorned with jewelry, offered food and incense. These acts were not symbolic performances. The Egyptians believed the god genuinely required sacred care to maintain cosmic balance. Rituals that sustained the universe. Temple rituals were considered essential to the survival of creation itself. Without proper ceremonies, chaos could spread, the Nile might fail, the sun could weaken, Ma'at might collapse. Religion in Egypt was deeply practical. Ritual maintained reality. Pharaoh as high priest. Although ordinary priests served daily in temples, the pharaoh was considered the ultimate high priest of Egypt. The king acted as intermediary between humanity, gods, and cosmic order. Temple walls often depict pharaohs presenting offerings to the gods, reinforcing their divine role in preserving harmony. Incense, music, and sacred atmosphere. Egyptian temples were overwhelming sensory spaces. Incense smoke curling through stone halls, rhythmic chanting echoing beneath columns, bronze instruments ringing during ceremonies, torchlight flickering across painted walls. Everything created an atmosphere meant to sacred space from ordinary life. Processions of the gods. During festivals, the gods left their sanctuaries. Priests carried sacred barks, portable shrines containing divine images, through crowded streets while people celebrated, with music, offerings, dancing, prayers. For brief moments, the hidden gods became visible to the wider population. Temples and the Nile. Most great temples stood beside the Nile. The river itself was sacred, source of life, symbol of rebirth, reflection of cosmic order. Temple processions often travelled by boat, mirroring the journeys of gods like Ra through heaven and the underworld. Temples as fortresses against chaos. The outer world remained dangerous. Deserts, storms, death, Apophis beneath creation. Temples became islands of sacred order resisting surrounding chaos. Their massive stone walls symbolized permanence against the instability of the world beyond. Sacred knowledge within temple walls. Temples also functioned as centers of learning, astronomy, medicine, writing, ritual knowledge. Priests preserved myths, calendars, magical texts, historical records. Much of Egypt's intellectual life existed within these sacred complexes. Purity and ritual cleanliness. Priests underwent strict purification rituals, shaving body hair, bathing repeatedly, wearing clean linen, avoiding certain foods, because entering sacred space required spiritual and physical purity. The divine world demanded order and discipline. Monumental temples of stone structures like Karnak, Luxor, Abu Simbel became enormous expressions of divine power. Towering columns resembled stone forests. Obelisks pierced the sky like frozen rays of sunlight. These temples were built not merely for human admiration, but for eternity itself. The silence of the inner chambers. Despite their grandeur, the holiest places inside temples were often dark, silent, enclosed, mysterious. Egyptian spirituality moved inward, toward hidden sacredness rather than open display. The deepest truths remained veiled in shadow. Temples as living mythology. Every wall, hallway, and ritual reenacted mythology, the birth of creation, the victory over chaos, the journeys of the gods. The temple was not just a building, it was the universe made visible in stone. Closing beneath the temple columns, night settles over ancient Egypt. Torchlight flickers across towering columns while incense drifts through vast sacred halls carved with gods and stars. Deep within the hidden sanctuary, priests whisper prayers before a golden divine image resting in darkness beyond mortal sight. And outside the temple walls, the ordered world of Egypt continues, protected, sustained, and held together by rituals performed beneath the watchful eyes of the eternal gods. Episode 14, The Duat, Egypt's underworld of gods and monsters. Beneath the earth, beyond the western horizon where the sun disappeared each evening, the ancient Egyptians imagined another world hidden in darkness, the Duat. The realm of the dead, a supernatural landscape filled with rivers of fire, shadowed caverns, gates guarded by terrifying beings, divine trials, monstrous creatures, and hidden pathways beneath creation itself. It was not simply hell, nor paradise. It was a cosmic labyrinth between death and eternity, the hidden world beneath reality. The Duat existed alongside the mortal world but remained invisible to the living. Each night, Ra travelled through it, the dead journeyed through it, gods battled within it. It was both underworld and cosmic dimension, a place where normal rules no longer applied. The realm beyond sunset. The Egyptians connected the west with death, because every evening the sun vanished into the western horizon. To them, this meant Ra was entering the Duat itself. Tombs and necropolises were often built on the western side of the Nile for this reason. The setting sun became a gateway into the unseen world. Gates of the underworld. The Duat was divided into regions separated by gates, caverns, guarded passages. Each gateway was watched by terrifying entities demanding names, spells, sacred knowledge. To pass safely, the soul had to know the correct words. The afterlife became a journey through hidden mysteries. Names as keys to survival. Egyptian spirituality placed enormous importance on names. A true name carried identity, essence, supernatural power. Many underworld texts describe souls reciting secret names to bypass dangers. Knowledge itself became protection against annihilation. Lakes of fire. Some regions of the Duat contained burning lakes, rivers of flame, fiery caverns. These places could destroy hostile spirits and enemies of cosmic order. Fire in Egyptian mythology was both protective and terrifying. The underworld was not cold darkness alone, it burned with divine danger. Serpents beneath the earth. Gigantic serpents haunted the Duat. Guardians, devourers, embodiments of chaos. Most feared of all was Apophis, who waited within the darkness to attack Ra's solar boat each night. The underworld constantly threatened collapse into primordial chaos. Every night, Ra entered the Duat aboard his solar bark. As he travelled, demons attacked, gates opened, divine beings aided him, chaos rose against him. At midnight, the danger reached its peak, but if Ra survived until dawn, the sun rose once more. The survival of creation depended on this journey succeeding every single night. The Hall of Judgment. Deep within the Duat stood the Hall of Ma'at, where souls faced judgment before Osiris. Here, hearts were weighed, truth was revealed, Amit waited beside the scales. The underworld was not random torment. It reflected moral and cosmic balance. Spirits of the blessed dead. Not every region of the Duat was horrifying. The worthy dead could eventually reach beautiful eternal realms. Peaceful fields, flowing waters, abundant harvests, divine companionship. This paradise became known as the Field of Reeds, an idealized version of Egypt itself. Eternal Egypt beyond death. The Egyptians did not imagine paradise as something completely alien. Instead, the afterlife reflected perfected earthly existence, fertile land, family continuity, abundance, harmony. Eternity meant preservation of meaningful life, not escape from existence. Strange gods and hybrid beings. The Duat contained bizarre supernatural entities, human-animal hybrids, multi-headed guardians, beings made of shadow and flame. These creatures reflected the deeply symbolic imagination of Egyptian religion. Every form carried spiritual meaning. Maps of the underworld. Texts such as the Duat, the Book of Gates, the Book of Caverns describe the geography of the Duat in extraordinary detail. These were not myths alone. They acted as sacred maps, helping souls and priests understand the hidden structure of eternity.
Death as transformation.
For Egyptians, death was not disappearance. It was transformation, from mortal to spirit, from earthly life to cosmic existence. The Duat became the bridge between these states, dangerous but necessary. Order against chaos. Even in the underworld, the central Egyptian struggle remained the same, Ma'at against chaos. The Duat constantly balanced, destruction and rebirth, darkness and sunrise, judgment and salvation. Creation itself remained fragile beneath the surface of eternity. The fear of being lost. One of the deepest Egyptian fears was becoming trapped in the Duat forever, forgotten, destroyed, wandering without identity. That is why tombs, rituals, amulets, sacred texts were considered essential. They protected the soul from dissolution. The underworld beneath civilization. The Duat reveals the hidden side of Egyptian spirituality. Behind golden temples, ordered rituals, monumental pyramids, stood profound awareness of death, uncertainty, cosmic danger. The ancient Egyptians saw existence as beautiful, but always balanced beside darkness. Closing beneath the gates of the Duat, far beneath the mortal world, torchlight flickers across endless caverns where strange gods stand watch beside gates of black stone. Rivers of fire glow through the darkness while the solar boat of Ra moves silently toward another uncertain dawn. And somewhere within those hidden depths, the dead continue their eternal journey through the Duat, walking carefully through the shadowed realm between oblivion and everlasting life. Episode 15, Pharaoh, the divine bridge between gods and humanity. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh was not seen as merely a king. He was something far greater, a living connection between humanity, the gods, and the cosmic order holding the universe together. To rule Egypt was not simply political power, it was sacred responsibility, because if the pharaoh failed, the world itself could fall into chaos. The living Horus. Egyptian kings were believed to embody Horus while alive. The falcon god of kingship became flesh through the ruler of Egypt. This made the pharaoh divine protector, guardian of Ma'at, defender of sacred order. The king was not worshipped as human alone. He became part of the cosmic structure itself. Guardian of Ma'at. The pharaoh's greatest duty was preserving Ma'at, the sacred balance of truth, harmony, justice, cosmic order. Everything depended on it. The flooding of the Nile, the rising of the sun, stability of society, survival of creation itself. A righteous king maintained harmony between heaven and earth. The Nile and divine kingship. When the Nile flooded properly, it proved the gods remained pleased. If disaster struck, famine, drought, invasion, many believed cosmic balance had weakened. The pharaoh carried responsibility not only for politics, but for the stability of nature itself. Kingship became supernatural stewardship. Son of Ra. Over time, pharaohs were also associated with Ra. Many rulers called themselves Son of Ra, linking their authority directly to the sun god. Just as Ra defeated chaos each dawn, the king defended Egypt against enemies, disorder, rebellion, spiritual imbalance. The king and the temples. The pharaoh stood at the center of temple ritual. Temple walls constantly depict kings, offering incense, presenting food, kneeling before gods, defeating enemies of order. These scenes were not decoration alone. They symbolized the ruler actively sustaining the universe through sacred duty. Pharaoh as warrior. Egyptian kings also served as defenders of civilization. Temple carvings show pharaohs striking enemies, riding chariots, conquering foreign lands. These images represented more than military victory. The enemies of Egypt symbolized chaos threatening cosmic order. War itself became mythological. The double crown of Egypt. Pharaohs wore the double crown combining Upper Egypt, Lower Egypt. This symbolized unity beneath divine rule. The king became living proof that opposites could exist in sacred balance. Kingship beyond death. When a pharaoh died, the ruler became associated with Osiris, lord of the underworld. This created a sacred cycle. Living king equals Horus, dead king Osiris. Each new ruler repeated the divine pattern of myth itself. Egyptian kingship mirrored cosmic rebirth endlessly. The pyramids and eternal rule. The pyramids were not simply tombs. They were massive spiritual monuments designed to help the pharaoh ascend to the heavens, join the gods, achieve eternal life. The king's survival after death mattered to the entire kingdom. Even in death, the ruler continued protecting cosmic order. Pharaoh, among the stars. Some ancient texts describe deceased kings ascending into the sky, joining the stars, sailing beside Ra, becoming eternal divine beings. The heavens themselves became part of royal destiny. Death transformed kings into cosmic entities. The human reality beneath divinity. Despite divine imagery, pharaohs remained human, vulnerable to illness, political struggle, assassination, failure. This created tension within Egyptian history. What happened when a divine ruler proved weak? The mythology promised eternal order, but reality often brought instability. The fragile nature of power. Egyptian civilization lasted thousands of years, yet dynasties still collapsed. Invasions came, kingdoms fractured, temples fell silent. The pharaoh symbolized humanity's attempt to preserve order against time itself. But even sacred kingship could not stop mortality forever. The eternal image of the pharaoh. Today, the image of the Egyptian king remains iconic. Gold funerary masks, towering statues, crowns beneath the desert sun. But behind that grandeur stood something deeper, the belief that one human being could stand between civilization and chaos. The pharaoh became the sacred center of the Egyptian world. Closing. Beneath the crown of Egypt, dawn rises across the Nile, while temple priests kneel beneath towering obelisks glowing in golden sunlight. Far above them, falcons circle through the brightening sky as incense drifts through vast stone halls. And seated upon the throne of Egypt, the pharaoh appears. Living Horus, son of Ra, guardian of Ma'at, the mortal ruler entrusted with holding the balance of the universe itself. Episode 16, Sacred Animals and the Souls of the Gods. To the ancient Egyptians, animals were never merely animals. They were divine symbols, manifestations of sacred power, living reflections of the gods themselves. The natural world pulsed with spiritual meaning. A falcon soaring above the Nile, a crocodile sliding silently through dark water, a cat watching from a temple wall, all could reveal the presence of the divine. A world filled with living symbols. Egyptian religion saw no sharp boundary between nature, gods, and cosmic forces. The gods often appeared through animal forms because animals embodied sacred qualities: strength, fertility, wisdom, danger, protection, mystery. The natural world became a language through which divine power revealed itself. Horus and the falcon. One of the most important sacred animals was the falcon. Associated with Horus and sometimes Ra, the falcon represented kingship, heavenly vision, dominance of the skies. High above Egypt, falcons seemed to rule the heavens themselves. Their sharp sight and swift descent made them perfect symbols of divine authority. Bastet and the cat. Cats became sacred through Bast. They protected homes from snakes, vermin, unseen threats. But cats also seemed mysterious, silent, graceful, independent, watchful in darkness. The Egyptians admired this hidden intelligence. Cats were often mummified, mourned, protected by law. Some temples even housed enormous cat sanctuaries. Sobek, Lord of the Crocodiles. The Nile contained one of Egypt's most feared creatures, the crocodile. Powerful, ancient, and terrifying. The crocodile god, Sobek, represented strength, fertility, military power, the dangerous force of the Nile itself. To worship Sobek was partly an attempt to respect and control the deadly power lurking within the river. The Nile as sacred ecosystem. Nearly every important Egyptian animal connected back to the Nile: ibis birds, crocodiles, hippos, fish, cattle near fertile floodplains. Since the Nile sustained civilization, its creatures naturally gained spiritual importance. Nature and religion were inseparable. The scarab and rebirth. One of Egypt's most famous symbols is the scarab beetle, associated with Khepri, a solar deity linked to rebirth. Egyptians observed scarabs rolling balls of dung across the earth and imagined parallels with the sun moving across the sky, creation emerging repeatedly, life renewing itself endlessly. The scarab became a symbol of resurrection, transformation, eternal return. Sacred bulls of Egypt. Certain bulls were worshipped as living manifestations of divine force. Most famous was the Apis bull, seen as connected to Ptah, Osiris, royal power. These animals received extraordinary care, ceremonial processions, luxurious treatment, elaborate burials after death. The divine could literally inhabit a living creature. Birds, between heaven and earth. Birds carried special meaning because they moved between earth, sky, divine realms. Many Egyptian souls were imagined in bird-like form after death. The part of the human soul was often depicted as a bird with a human head. Flight symbolized spiritual freedom beyond mortality. Serpents, protection and terror. Snakes held dual meaning in Egypt. They could represent protection, kingship, sacred power. The royal cobra, Uraeus, protected pharaohs and spat divine fire at enemies. But serpents also represented chaos through Apophis. Again, Egyptian symbolism embraced duality rather than simple categories. Taweret, the hippopotamus goddess. Even the dangerous hippopotamus became sacred. The goddess, Taweret, appeared as a protective female hippo associated with childbirth, fertility, motherhood. Though hippos were immensely dangerous animals, their fierce maternal behavior inspired protective symbolism. Egyptian spirituality constantly transformed fear into sacred meaning. The Egyptians did not literally believe gods were ordinary animals. Rather, animals expressed aspects of divine force difficult to describe in purely human form. A falcon captured heavenly kingship better than words alone. A lioness embodied wrath more powerfully than abstract philosophy. Animal symbolism became sacred language. Mummified animals. Millions of animals were mummified in ancient Egypt. Cats, ibises, crocodiles, bulls, falcons. Some were sacred offerings. Others were temple animals treated as divine incarnations. The sheer scale reveals how deeply spirituality infused daily life. Humanity within nature. Egyptian religion did not place humanity above nature. Instead, humans existed within a sacred cosmic web. Gods, animals, rivers, stars, deserts, all interconnected. Every living thing carried symbolic and spiritual significance. Closing beneath the eyes of the sacred beasts. Dusk settles across the Nile. Falcons glide through crimson skies while cats move silently between temple columns lit by flickering firelight. Far out on the dark river, crocodiles drift beneath the surface like ancient spirits older than memory itself. And throughout Egypt, the gods continue watching through countless living forms, hidden within feather, fur, scale, and wing, woven into the sacred heartbeat of the natural world. Episode 17, Magic Amulets and Ancient Egyptian Sorcery. In ancient Egypt, magic was not fantasy, it was woven into reality itself. The Egyptians believed unseen forces moved constantly through the world, through spoken words, sacred symbols, hidden names, ritual objects, divine power flowing beneath creation. And those who understood these forces could heal sickness, protect the dead, curse enemies, ward off demons, or call upon the gods themselves. This sacred force was known as Heka, the power of magic. Heka, the force beneath creation. Heka was not merely spells or tricks. It was a cosmic force existing since the beginning of the universe. Even the gods used it. Without Heka, creation could not survive, rituals would fail, words would lose power, order itself might collapse. Magic was considered part of the natural structure of existence. Words as sacred power. Egyptians believed speech could shape reality. To say something correctly, with proper ritual and intention, could influence the unseen world. This is why prayers, chants, names, spells were treated with immense seriousness. Language itself became supernatural technology. The power of secret names. One of the strongest magical beliefs centered around true names. A secret name contained the essence of a being. To know it granted influence and power. This idea appears repeatedly in Egyptian mythology. Isis gaining Ra's hidden name, underworld guardians demanding sacred passwords, demons controlled through spoken identity. Knowledge became magical authority. Amulets and protective symbols. Egyptians carried countless amulets for protection against illness, evil spirits, curses, venom, misfortune. These objects were believed to contain real supernatural force. Common amulets included the Eye of Horus, scarabs, ankhs, protective deities. They were worn around the neck, buried with the dead, placed inside homes, wrapped within mummy bandages. The Eye of Horus. Perhaps the most famous Egyptian protective symbol was the Eye of Horus. representing healing, restoration, protection, wholeness after suffering. It became one of the most widespread magical symbols in Egyptian history. To wear it meant carrying divine protection against chaos and harm. The Ankh, symbol of life. Another sacred symbol was the Ankh, the hieroglyph representing life itself. Gods are often depicted offering the Ankh to pharaohs, symbolizing divine life force. The symbol became associated with immortality, vitality, eternal existence. Magic for the dead. Egyptian sorcery focused heavily on survival after death. Spells protected the deceased from demons, destruction, forgetting, wandering eternally in darkness. Magic helped preserve identity, guide souls through the Duat, secure eternal life beside the gods. The boundary between religion and magic barely existed. Protection against dangerous creatures. Life in ancient Egypt contained real dangers. Snakes, scorpions, disease, crocodiles. Protective spells were used constantly. Many magical texts invoke gods like Isis, Horus, Sekhmet for healing venom and warding off harm. Magic functioned as both spiritual and practical survival. Ritual magic and sacred ceremonies. Priests performed elaborate rituals involving incense, sacred oils, statues, fire, symbolic gestures, spoken formulas. These ceremonies could bless, protect, purify, or spiritually defend sacred spaces. The Egyptians believed rituals actively maintained cosmic order. Books of hidden knowledge. Legends grew around forbidden magical texts supposedly written by Thoth. These books were said to contain secrets of the cosmos, power over spirits, hidden divine knowledge, but such wisdom carried danger because power without balance could bring catastrophe. Magic was not always good. Egyptian magic could protect, but also harm. Curses existed against enemies, grave robbers, traitors, threats to sacred order. Wax figures, written names, and ritual destruction could symbolically attack opponents through supernatural means. Magic reflected the same duality found throughout Egyptian mythology, creation and destruction intertwined. Everyday magic in Egyptian life. Ordinary people practiced magic constantly. Charms for childbirth, blessings for crops, household protections, healing rituals. Magic was not reserved only for priests and kings. It permeated daily existence. The unseen world always remained close. The fear of unseen forces. Beneath Egypt's magnificent temples and monuments lay constant awareness of vulnerability, disease, death, demons, bad fortune, cosmic instability. Magic became humanity's attempt to negotiate with an unpredictable universe. Sorcery and cosmic balance. Most Egyptian magic aimed not at domination, but restoration of balance, healing illness, protecting homes, guiding souls. Defending against chaos, true magical power aligned with Ma'at, the sacred order sustaining creation. Closing beneath the sacred symbols. Night settles across ancient Egypt. Oil lamps flicker beside painted walls covered in protective hieroglyphs, while priests whisper ancient formulas into incense-filled darkness. Amulets rest against the chests of the living and the dead alike, guarding them from unseen dangers moving through the night. And somewhere within the hidden fabric of the universe, the force of Heka still flows. The ancient magic Egyptians believed held together gods, souls, and creation itself. Episode 18, Isis, goddess of magic, motherhood, and the throne. Among all the gods of ancient Egypt, few were as powerful, complex, and enduring as Isis. Goddess of magic, motherhood, healing, kingship, protection, and divine resurrection. She is the force that binds broken things back together. Where others rule through strength or fear, Isis rules through knowledge, devotion, and sacred power. The great enchantress, Isis is the master of Heka, divine magic. But her magic is not chaos or trickery. It is precise, intelligent, deeply intentional. She understands the hidden structure of reality itself. Even the gods respect her power. The goddess who reassembled Osiris. One of the most important myths tells how Isis finds the body of Osiris after it is scattered and destroyed and restores him through magic and devotion. Through her actions, death is reversed, order is restored, life continues beyond destruction. This becomes the foundation of Egyptian resurrection belief. The secret name of Ra, one of Isis's greatest acts of power, is acquiring the hidden name of Ra. The sun god possessed a secret name containing his true essence. Isis learns it through cunning and magic, giving her immense authority. This myth reinforces a core Egyptian idea: knowledge is power, even over gods. Magic against chaos. Isis is often portrayed as a protector against venom, disease, hostile forces, supernatural threats. She heals Horus when he is poisoned as a child, becoming associated with medicine, healing spells, protective rituals. She stands as a barrier between life and destruction. Mother of Horus. Isis is the mother of Horus, future king of Egypt. She hides and protects him from Set in marshes, in secret places, through constant vigilance and magic. Her motherhood is not passive. It is strategic, dangerous, and deeply powerful. She ensures the survival of divine kingship itself. Isis and the throne. The name Isis is linked to the throne itself. She is sometimes depicted as the seat of kingship, the foundation upon which rulers sit. This symbolizes her role. Without Isis, royal power cannot exist. She is the hidden foundation of authority. Goddess of protection. Isis protects children, kings, the dead, the vulnerable. Amulets invoking Isis were extremely common. She was especially called upon in childbirth, illness, danger at sea, and funerary rituals. Her presence was believed to extend across all stages of life and death. Isis in the afterlife. In funerary belief, Isis plays a crucial role, guiding souls, protecting the dead, helping them survive the Duat. She is often depicted beside Osiris in judgment scenes, offering divine support to the deceased. Even death cannot sever her protective influence. The wandering goddess. Some myths describe Isis as a wandering figure, searching for Osiris, traveling across Egypt, encountering danger and hardship. Her journey reflects devotion, persistence, sacred determination. She is not distant or untouchable. She moves through the world like humanity itself. Wisdom and divine feminine power. Isis embodies a unique combination: intelligence, emotional depth, magical mastery, protective strength. She is neither purely gentle nor purely fierce. She is adaptive power shaped by necessity. Isis across time. Isis became one of the most widely worshipped goddesses in the ancient world. Egypt, Greece, Rome, later mystery cults. Her image evolves, but her essence remains, a universal mother figure of protection and sacred magic. Healing and restoration. Isis represents the idea that what is broken can be restored. Bodies can heal, death can be overcome, chaos can be contained, kingship can be rebuilt. She is the divine principle of repair. Closing. Beneath the wings of Isis, night falls across the Nile. A soft wind moves through reeds and temple columns while faint chants rise from distant sanctuaries. Above the sleeping land, a winged goddess spreads her arms across the sky, protecting kings, children, and the dead alike. And within the quiet darkness of Egypt, Isis endures, the great enchantress who gathers broken worlds into wholeness, holding creation together through love, memory, and ancient magic. Episode 19, Horus, the Falcon of Kingship and Vengeance. In the heart of Egyptian mythology, a war is always being fought, not only between gods and monsters, but between two eternal principles: order and chaos. And standing at the center of that struggle is Horus, falcon god of kingship, sky and vision, divine justice, rightful inheritance, vengeance for his father. Born from loss and magic, Horus is the son of Isis, goddess of magic, Osiris, murdered king of the gods. He is not born into peace. He is born into conflict. From the beginning, his existence carries a mission to restore what was destroyed. The rivalry with Set. Horus's greatest enemy is Set, god of storms, violence, chaos, disorder. Set kills Osiris and takes the throne of Egypt. This act fractures the divine order. Horus becomes the rightful challenger, the force attempting to restore balance. The Eye of Horus. One of the most powerful symbols in Egyptian mythology is the Eye of Horus. During battle with Set, Horus loses his eye. It is later restored, becoming a symbol of healing, wholeness, protection, restored order. Even brokenness can become sacred again. The falcon above the world. Horus is often shown as a falcon, or a man with a falcon head. From above, he sees everything: truth, injustice, hidden conflict. His gaze represents divine awareness. Nothing escapes his sight. King of the living world. After the struggle, Horus becomes ruler of Egypt. He represents legitimate kingship, moral authority, cosmic balance restored. Pharaohs are seen as his earthly embodiment. To serve Horus is to serve rightful order. The divine court of the gods. In myth, Horus and Set do not only fight physically, they also argue before the gods. A divine tribunal decides who is rightful king, who represents order, who represents chaos. Egyptian mythology reflects a universe governed by justice and cosmic law. Violence and balance. Horus is not purely peaceful. He is also a warrior, an avenger, a force that strikes back against chaos. But his violence is structured, it serves restoration, not destruction. This is key in Egyptian worldview. Power must be controlled by order. The cycle of kingship. Horus completes a sacred cycle. Osiris equals dead king, underworld. Horus equals living king, earth. Together they form eternal continuity, death and life balancing each other. Every pharaoh repeats this divine pattern. Hor in the sky. As a sky god, Horus represents distance, perspective, clarity, cosmic order. The sky itself becomes a symbol of divine oversight. Above human conflict, order still exists. The price of restoration. The myth of Horus shows something important. Restoring order is not peaceful. It requires struggle, loss, endurance, confrontation with chaos. Even divine kingship is earned through conflict. Closing beneath the falcon's wings. High above the Nile, a falcon circles through burning sunlight, its shadow moving across temples and desert sands below. Below it, Egypt rebuilds its sacred order after chaos and betrayal. And in the sky itself, Horus watches, eternal king, wounded healer, and avenger of broken harmony, guarding the world from above as the struggle between order and chaos continues beneath his endless flight. Episode 20, Set, god of storms, chaos, and the necessary darkness. In Egyptian mythology, not all gods fit neatly into good or evil. Some exist in a more uncomfortable space, forces that are dangerous but still essential. One of the most misunderstood of these gods is Set, god of storms, deserts, foreign lands, chaos, disruption, raw, uncontrollable power. He is not simply a villain, he is the force that breaks stability apart. The red desert god Set is strongly associated with the desert beyond the Nile, a place of silence, emptiness, heat, danger, no life. To Egyptians, the desert represented the edge of order. Set embodies that boundary itself, the unpredictable force outside civilization. The mysterious Set, animal Set, is depicted with a strange, unidentified creature. Long snout, squared ears, angular body, no clear real-world equivalent. This reflects his nature. He is not meant to be fully understood. He represents the unknown and the unstable. The murder of Osiris. Set's most famous myth is the killing of Osiris. He traps him in a coffin, seals him, casts him into the Nile, and usurps the throne. This act shatters cosmic balance. The world shifts from unity into conflict. Set becomes the rival of Horus. Their conflict is not just a battle between gods. It is a cosmic argument about order versus disruption, stability versus change, inheritance versus force. They fight endlessly in myth and judgment. God of storms and power. Unlike calm agricultural gods, Set represents sudden storms, thunder, violent winds, uncontrollable natural force. But storms are not purely destructive. They also bring change, renewal, movement. Egyptians understood that even chaos has function. Lord of foreign lands, Set is also associated with foreign territories beyond Egypt. These lands were unfamiliar, unpredictable, culturally other. Set becomes a symbol of everything outside Egyptian order, the world beyond the Niles. Chaos as necessary force. One of the most important ideas in Egyptian mythology. Chaos is dangerous, but necessary. Without Set, no conflict, no transformation, no challenge to order, no growth or renewal. Even divine order needs pressure to remain stable. Set and Apophis. Not the same Set is often confused with Apophis, but they are different. Set equals chaotic force within creation. Apophis is pure destruction outside creation. Set can be dangerous, but he still belongs inside the cosmic system. He is part of the balance. Protector of Ra. In surprising myths, Set even becomes protector of Ra. During the nightly journey through the Duat, Set stands on the solar boat and spears Apophis. This reveals something important. Chaos can fight chaos when order itself is threatened. Violence as divine function. Set embodies controlled violence, necessary warfare, survival struggle, disruptive force that prevents stagnation. Egyptians did not reject him entirely. They feared him, but also respected his exile and the desert within myth. In later stories, Set is often pushed into exile, away from Egypt, into the desert margins. This reflects how societies handle disorder, not destroying it completely, but pushing it to the edges, yet it never disappears. The balance of the two brothers Set and Osiris represent two poles. Osiris equals stability, fertility, order. Set equals disruption, force, chaos. Their conflict creates the world humans inhabit, a fragile balance between both principles. The shadow that maintains light without Set. Egyptian mythology would lose tension. He ensures struggle exists, heroes are tested, kingship is earned, order must constantly be defended. He is the necessary pressure beneath civilization. Closing beneath the storm winds. Wind howls across the endless desert as sand twists into towering spirals beneath a burning sky. Somewhere beyond the Nile's fertile edge, a dark figure stands alone against the horizon. Not fully god, not fully monster, but something older and wilder than both. And in the unseen struggle between order and chaos, Set remains Stormbringer, breaker of stability, an essential force in the endless shaping of the Egyptian world. 21. Osiris, death, resurrection, and the eternal king. At the heart of Egyptian mythology lies a story older than temples, older than pyramids, older even than written language in its final form. A story about betrayal, death, dismemberment, love, restoration, and eternal life beyond the grave. This is the myth of Osiris, god of the dead, fertility, resurrection, kingship, and eternal judgment. The good king of Egypt, Osiris begins as a just ruler, teaching agriculture, establishing order, bringing civilization to humanity. He represents fertility of the Nile, stability of society, sacred kingship. Under his rule, Egypt flourishes. The betrayal of Set, but Osiris is betrayed by his brother Set. Jealous and driven by chaos, Set devises a plan. He traps Osiris in a beautifully crafted coffin, sealed and thrown into the Nile. The good king is killed and lost to the world. Order collapses. The scattered body. In later myths, Set goes further. Osiris's body is torn apart and scattered across Egypt. This act symbolizes fragmentation of order, destruction of unity, disruption of cosmic balance. The world becomes broken. The devotion of Isis. Osiris's wife, Isis, refuses to accept death. She travels across Egypt searching for his remains through marshes, deserts, foreign lands. Her devotion becomes a cosmic force of restoration. Love becomes magic. Isis gathers the pieces of Osiris and restores him through divine magic. Though incomplete in some versions, he is brought back into existence as a transformed being, not fully alive in the mortal sense, but something greater. Lord of the underworld, Osiris becomes ruler of the Duat, the realm of the dead. He no longer governs the living world. Instead, he becomes judge of souls, king of the afterlife, symbol of resurrection. Death is no longer an end, but a transition. The first judge of souls. In the hall of judgment, Osiris presides over weighing of the heart, evaluation of truth, eternal fate of the dead. He embodies fairness, moral order, cosmic justice after death. The green god of regrowth, Osiris is also tied to agriculture, grain, vegetation, seasonal cycles. His death and return mirror planting seeds, burial in earth, rebirth of crops. Life itself becomes cyclical. Osiris represents a profound idea. Death is not destruction, it's transformation. From decay comes renewal, growth, continuity. Egyptian belief turns mortality into part of nature's cycle, broken body that heals the world. The dismemberment of Osiris reflects fragmentation of order, suffering, loss. But restoration shows even broken things can be made whole again. Isis becomes the force of healing reality itself. Osiris and eternal kingship. Every pharaoh in death becomes associated with Osiris. The king dies like Osiris, is reborn into the underworld, continues eternal rule beyond life. Kingship itself becomes immortalized. Tombs as Osirian chambers. Egyptian tombs reflect Osiris mythology. Preservation of the body, ritual protection, hope for rebirth. Mummification is not just preservation, it is preparation for transformation. The eternal green flood. Osiris is often depicted with green skin, symbolizing rebirth, fertility, regeneration. Even death carries the promise of renewal. The Nile floods each year become his living echo, order through death. Osiris shows that even chaos and death serve a purpose in Egyptian cosmology. Set destroys, Isis restores, Osiris transforms. Together they form a cycle of existence itself. Closing beneath the throne of Osiris. Deep within the silent halls of the underworld, a crowned figure sits upon a stone throne, surrounded by darkness and stars. He does not walk among the living anymore, but he watches over all souls passing through death. And in every grain of wheat that rises from the earth, in every flood of the Nile that renews the land, Osiris endures, the broken king who became eternal, ruling not the world of the living, but the endless cycle of death and rebirth itself. Episode 22. Ra, the solar king and creator of the world. Before kings ruled Egypt, before humanity walked beside the Nile, before temples rose beneath the desert sun, there was only darkness, silence, and endless primordial water. And from that infinite void emerged Ra, the great solar god, creator of gods and humanity, the blazing force of life itself. Rising from none at the beginning of creation, only none existed. The infinite waters of chaos before the world. From these dark waters, Ra rises upon the first mound of land, bringing light, order, existence. Creation begins not through battle alone, but through emergence from darkness. The first sunrise, Ra's appearance becomes the first sunrise. Light spreads across the void, separating day from night, order from chaos, existence from nothingness. For Egyptians, every sunrise repeated this original act of creation. Dawn itself became sacred memory, the god who creates through speech. In some traditions, Ra creates through words, names, divine command. By speaking, the world takes shape. This reflects deeply Egyptian belief. Language carries creative power. Speech itself can shape reality. The Eye of Ra. Ra possesses a terrifying force known as the Eye of Ra. Not simply an eye, but a living extension of divine wrath and protection. The eye can appear as goddesses such as Sekhmet, Hathor, Bastet. Through it, Ra punishes rebellion, destroys enemies, protects cosmic order. The solar boat. Each day, Ra sails across the sky in his solar bark. The sun's movement becomes a divine journey. Dawn equals birth, noon equals strength, sunset equals descent into the underworld. The cosmos itself moves through Ra's cycle. The night journey through the Duat. When the sun disappears, Ra does not die. Instead, he enters the Duat, the underworld beneath creation. There he battles. Darkness, monsters, Apophis himself. Every night becomes a cosmic struggle for survival against Apophis. The serpent, Apophis attempts to devour Ra and end creation forever. But each night the gods defend the solar boat, and each dawn Ra emerges victorious once more. Sunrise becomes proof that order has survived another battle against chaos. Father of the gods, many Egyptian gods are connected to Ra. Through lineage, fusion, or shared solar symbolism. He becomes source of divine authority, foundation of kingship, center of cosmic order. Pharaohs rule as sons or representatives of Ra. Ra and Horus. Over time, Ra merges with Horus into Ra-Horakti, combining solar power, kingship, heavenly authority. Egyptian religion constantly evolves through merging divine aspects rather than replacing them. Ra does not simply shine, he actively sustains the balance of the universe. Without Ra, darkness returns, chaos spreads, life collapses. The sun itself becomes the engine of cosmic order. Humanity created from divine tears. One myth claims humanity was born from the tears of Ra. This gives humans a strange dual identity, fragile and mortal, yet originating from divine emotion. Humanity itself emerges from the creator god. The aging sun god. Unlike immortal perfection in some mythologies, Ra grows old. As humanity rebels, his power weakens with age. This adds a deeply human element to Egyptian mythology. Even divine order requires renewal. The eternal cycle of renewal. Ra's journey teaches one of Egypt's deepest truths. Order survives through repetition. Each day, the sun rises, chaos is defeated, life continues. Creation is not a single event, it is an endless process of renewal. Temple of the Sun? Massive solar temples honored Ra, open to sunlight, filled with obelisks aligned with the heavens. The obelisk itself symbolized a frozen ray of sunlight connecting earth and sky. Closing. Beneath the rising sun, darkness slowly retreats across the Nile as the first golden light touches temple walls and desert stone. Priests raise incense toward the sky while the solar disk rises once more above the horizon. And within the blazing heart of dawn, Ra awakens again. Creator, king, and eternal voyager, sailing across the heavens as he has since the first sunrise at the beginning of the world. Episode 23, Shu, Tefnut, Geb and Nut, the birth of sky, earth and air. Before temples, before gods walked among humans, before even the sun ruled the sky, Egypt imagined a cosmic family that formed the structure of reality itself. From the first creative act of Ra came four divine beings: Shu, air; Tefnut, moisture; Geb, earth; Nut, sky. Together they became the living architecture of the world. Shu, the breath between worlds. Shu is the god of air, wind, atmosphere, life force between beings. He represents the invisible space that allows everything to exist separately. Without Shu, sky and earth would collapse together, existence would lose structure. He is the breath of creation itself. Tefnut, moisture and cosmic balance. Tefnut is the goddess of moisture, rain, dew, life-giving water. She balances Shu. Where he is dryness and air, she is wetness and fluidity. Together they represent the conditions that make life possible. Geb, the living earth. Geb is the god of the earth, soil, mountains, fertility, underground forces. In myth, he lies beneath all living things, his body forming the ground itself. Plants grow from his body. Quakes are his laughter or movement. The earth is not passive, it is alive. Nut, the star-filled sky Nut, is the goddess of the sky, stars, cosmic canopy, celestial rebirth. She arches over the world like a living dome, her body covered in stars. Each night she swallows the sun and each morning she gives birth to it again. The Great Separation. At the beginning, Geb and Nut were locked together in eternal embrace, earth and sky united. But Shu intervenes. He lifts Nut upward, separating heaven from earth, creating space for life to exist in between. This act defines the structure of reality. The world between sky and earth, humanity now lives in the space between. Geb below, Nut above, Shu in the middle. Everything becomes layered: ground, atmosphere, heavens. Egyptian cosmology becomes structured, ordered and vertical. Nut and the cycle of the sun. Each day follows Nut's body. The sun is born in the morning, travels across her belly and is swallowed at night. Then it journeys through the underworld, only to be reborn again. Time itself becomes a cosmic rhythm. Geb and Nut, a myth of hidden love. Though separated, Geb and Nut remain in myth as lovers, earth longing for sky, sky bending toward earth. Their separation creates tension that sustains even the structure of the world, carries emotional myth. Shu, the silent divider. Shu stands between them, holding Nut aloft. He is not violent, not dramatic. He is necessary balance, the invisible structure preventing collapse. Without him, everything would return to chaos. The children of cosmic order. From Geb and Nut come the major gods: Osiris, Isis, Set, Nephthys. This makes them ancestors of divine conflict, kingship and magic. The entire Egyptian myth cycle grows from this cosmic family. Creation as separation. Egyptian mythology shows a key idea. Creation is not only building things, but separating them properly. Light from darkness, sky from earth, order from chaos. Structure is what allows life to exist. Closing beneath the starry sky above the Nile, Nut arches across the heavens, her body a river of stars stretching endlessly across the night. Below her lies Geb, breathing life into the soil where crops and kingdoms grow. Between them, Shu holds the world together in silence, unseen but essential. And within this divine architecture of sky, earth and air, the Egyptian universe takes shape, not as chaos, but as a carefully held balance between forces that would otherwise collapse into one endless void. Episode 24, Anubis, guardian of tombs and guide of the dead. Long before souls reached Osiris, before hearts were weighed against Ma'at, before the dead entered the hidden gates of the Duat, one god waiting silently beside the tomb. Anubis, god of embalming, mummification, tombs, funerary rites, and guidance through death. He is the silent protector standing between the dead and oblivion. The jackal of the necropolis, Anubis is depicted as a black jackal or a man with the head of a jackal. Jackals were often seen wandering near cemeteries and desert tombs. To Egyptians, this connected them directly with death, graves, the border between civilization and wilderness. Instead of fearing this animal alone, they transformed it into a divine guardian. Why Anubis is black. Though real jackals are not black, Anubis is depicted in deep black coloration. This symbolized fertile Nile soil, rebirth, preservation, regeneration after death. In Egypt, black was not merely the color of death, it was also the color of renewal. Anubis oversees embalming, wrapping of the dead, preservation of the body. Egyptians believed the body had to survive so the soul could continue existing. Without proper funerary care, identity itself could be lost forever. Anubis protects against that fate. The first embalmer. According to myth, Anubis performs the first mummification on Osiris after Set murders and dismembers him. This sacred act becomes the divine origin of Egyptian funerary practices. Every embalming ritual echoes the restoration of Osiris. Guardian of tombs. Tombs were sacred spaces, but also vulnerable to decay, grave robbers, spiritual corruption. Anubis watches over burial chambers, sarcophagi. Necropolis is hidden in desert silence. He becomes protector of memory itself. The weighing of the heart. One of the most famous Egyptian afterlife scenes shows Anubis guiding souls into judgment. He oversees the weighing of the heart, where the deceased heart is measured against the feather of Ma'at. The heart reveals truth. Nothing can be hidden in death. The devourer, waiting beside the scales. If the heart proves corrupted, a monstrous being waits nearby. Amit, a hybrid creature, part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus. She devours unworthy souls completely. Not punishment, but erasure. Anubis stands at the threshold where eternity is decided. Guide through the underworld. Anubis acts as a psychopomp, a guide of souls. He helps the dead navigate danger, reach judgment safely, move through the Duat. The underworld is terrifying, and Anubis becomes the calm presence leading souls through darkness. Priests of Anubis, priests performing embalming rituals, often wore jackal masks. During ceremonies, they symbolically became Anubis himself. Religion and ritual merged completely. The god acted through human hands. Death as sacred process. Egyptians did not view death as random chaos. It followed rituals, laws, cosmic structure. Anubis represents this ordered transition, death carefully guided rather than abandoned to darkness. The silent god, unlike louder gods of kingship or war, Anubis is quiet. He does not dominate mythology through spectacle. Instead, he appears beside tombs, in funeral chambers, within shadows and torchlight. His power is calm, inevitable, and deeply intimate, between wilderness and civilization. The jackal itself reflects Anubis's role, a creature moving between desert and settlement, life and death, civilization and wilderness. Anubis stands permanently at thresholds, humanity's fear of being forgotten. At the heart of Anubis worship lies a profound fear, to vanish without memory, to decay into nothingness, to lose identity after death. Through mummification and ritual, Anubis protects the soul from oblivion. Closing beneath the tomb, entrance deep within the necropolis, torchlight flickers across painted burial walls while priests whisper sacred formulas beside the dead. Beyond the reach of the living world, a black jackal watches silently at the entrance of the tomb. Not as predator, but as guardian. And as souls begin their journey into the Duat, Anubis walks beside them, guide of the dead, keeper of sacred rites, and eternal protector of those crossing the threshold between life and eternity. Episode 25, None, the primordial waters before gods had names, before light existed, before sky and earth were separated, there was only endless darkness, a boundless, silent ocean that had no direction, no time, no form. This is None, the primordial waters of chaos. The infinite before creation. None is not a god in the traditional sense. He is the beginning without beginning, the ocean before existence, the potential of all things not yet formed. In Egyptian thought, everything that exists emerges from None, and everything will one day return to him. The stillness of nothingness. None is described as infinite water, motionless, without boundaries, without light. There is no land, no sky, no life, only endless possibility waiting to awaken. The first rise of creation from None, the first mound of land emerges, the primordial hill. Upon it rises Ra, the first light, the beginning of order. Creation is not made from nothing, but from something eternal and unformed. The hidden foundation of reality. Even after creation, None does not disappear. He remains beneath the world, beyond the sky, surrounding existence itself. Order floats inside chaos, never fully separated from it. So order suspended above chaos. Egyptian cosmology is not a clean separation. Instead, Ma'at, order, exists above none, but none still surrounds everything. Reality is fragile, always suspended over infinite potential chaos. None and the return of the world. Egyptians believed that at the end of time, the world would dissolve, the gods would vanish, creation would collapse back into none. Everything returns to the original waters. The universe is cyclical, not permanent. The gods who emerged from none. From none came Right, Atum, self-creating God, the first divine principles. Even the gods are temporary shapes rising from infinite depth. None is silence and mystery. None is not worshipped like other gods. He is acknowledged, respected, feared in his boundlessness. He represents the unknown that can never be fully understood. The ocean beneath everything. Egyptian temples, myths, and rituals exist on a simple idea. Behind all order lies chaos. None is that truth made myth. Closing beneath the endless waters, far beyond the sky and beneath the roots of the world, an infinite dark ocean stretches without horizon or sound. No sun shines here. No land breaks the surface. No name defines its depths. And within that endless stillness, none remains, the silent origin of all things, surrounding creation like an eternal memory of the time before time itself. Episode 26, Hathor, Love, Joy, Music, and Divine Ecstasy. In the vast pantheon of Egyptian gods, not all divine forces are tied to death, war, cosmic struggle. Some are born from joy itself, from music, from beauty, from the sacred intoxication of life. This is the realm of Hathor, goddess of love, music, dance, beauty, fertility, joy, and divine celebration. She is the moment when existence becomes radiant. The celestial cow. Hathor is often depicted as a cow or a woman with cow horns and a solar disk. The cow represents nourishment, motherhood, abundance, gentle protection. She is the sky that feeds life. The solar companion. Hathor is closely connected to Ra. In some myths, she is his daughter, in others his eye, in others his loving companion. She embodies the warm, life-giving joy of the sun, not its burning force, but its comforting presence. Goddess of music and dance. Hathor presides over music, rhythm, singing, dancing, celebration. Ancient festivals in her honor included drums, flutes, rattles, ecstatic movement. Music was not entertainment alone. It was a sacred act of alignment with divine joy, the sacred drunkenness. In Hathor's festivals, participants sometimes drank heavily in ritual celebration. This was not chaos, but controlled ecstasy, a symbolic release from fear, order, emotional restraint, a moment where humanity touched divine joy directly. The Eye of Ra, the fierce form of Hathor. In one myth, Hathor is the Eye of Ra sent to punish humanity. She becomes Sekhmet-like in fury, destructive, unstoppable. But Ra stops her rage by tricking her with beer dyed red like blood. She drinks it, falls into peaceful intoxication, and transforms back into Hathor. This myth shows her dual nature. Destruction and joy are two sides of the same divine force. Goddess of beauty and love. Hathor is also associated with love between people, attraction, sensuality, emotional connection. She represents life in its most tender and human form. Where Isis is protective love, Hathor is joyful love. Temples of joy. Her most famous temple was Dendera, a place filled with astronomical ceilings, carved celestial scenes, music rituals, sacred festivals. The temple itself reflects cosmic harmony expressed through beauty. Mistress of the West, Hathor is often called Lady of the West because she welcomes the dead into the afterlife. In this role, she is gentle, comforting, guiding souls safely into eternity. Death becomes peaceful under her care. The Divine Mother aspect. As a cow goddess, Hathor symbolizes nourishment, milk, maternal care. She provides sustenance not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually. She is the nurturer of gods and humans alike. Balance of joy and chaos. Hathor exists alongside harsher gods. Sekhmet's rage, Set's chaos, Apophis' destruction, but she represents the necessary opposite, joy as cosmic stability. Without joy, order becomes lifeless. The music of the cosmos. Egyptians believed the universe itself had rhythm, celestial cycles, seasonal patterns, the movement of stars. Hathor embodies this cosmic music, the idea that existence itself is structured like song. Closing beneath the star-drunk sky, night falls across Egypt, but it does not feel silent. Somewhere in the distance, drums echo through temple courtyards while dancers move beneath torchlight, their movements reflecting rhythms older than memory itself. And above them the goddess smiles, horns glowing with starlight, the sky itself alive with music. Hathor lingers in the joy of the world, not as distant deity but as laughter, rhythm, and beauty woven into the living fabric of existence. 27. Mummies, tomb curses, and the quest for eternal life. To the ancient Egyptians, death was not the end of existence. It was a transformation, a dangerous passage requiring preparation, protection, and preservation. And at the center of that preparation stood one of the most famous practices in human history, mummification, the sacred art of preserving the body for eternity. Why the body had to survive. Egyptians believed the soul was made of multiple parts. The Ka, life force, the Ba, personality, soul, the Ak, transformed spirit, the shadow, the true name. For these aspects to survive after death, the body had to remain recognizable. Destruction of the body threatened eternal existence itself. The sacred work of embalmers. Mummification was not simply preservation. It was ritual transformation. Special embalmers purified the body, removed organs, dried the corpse with natron salts, wrapped it in linen, protected it with sacred amulets and spells. The dead were being prepared to become eternal beings. The importance of the heart. Most organs were removed and stored in canopic jars, but the heart was usually left inside the body. Because Egyptians believed the heart contained memory, emotion, conscience, identity. It would later be weighed before Osiris in the Hall of Judgment. Anubis, guardian of the dead, the god overseeing mummification, was Anubis. Jackal-headed lord of embalming and tombs. He protected graves, funerary rites, the passage into the afterlife. Jackals roaming near cemeteries likely inspired his sacred role. Protective amulets within the wrappings. As bodies were wrapped, priests inserted magical amulets between the linen layers. Scarabs, Eye of Horus symbols, ankhs, protective inscriptions. The mummy became a sacred spiritual object armored against the dangers of the Duat. The ritual of opening the mouth. One of the most important ceremonies was the opening of the mouth. Priests symbolically restored the senses of the dead, sight, speech, hearing, breath. This allowed the deceased to function in the afterlife. Death became reawakening. Tombs as eternal houses. Egyptian tombs were carefully designed homes for eternity. They contained food, furniture, statues, jewelry, sacred texts, offerings. The dead were expected to continue existing in another realm. The tomb became a bridge between worlds. Tomb curses and sacred warnings. Many tombs contained warnings against desecration. These curses threatened divine punishment, supernatural vengeance, spiritual destruction. While modern legends exaggerate them, the fear behind them was real. Disturbing a tomb endangered eternal balance. The fear of oblivion. More than physical death, Egyptians feared being forgotten, erased, losing identity forever. That is why names were carved into stone repeatedly. To erase someone's name was to threaten their immortality. Memory itself became sacred. Tomb robbers and eternal protection. Despite the sacredness of tombs, grave robbery became common. This forced Egyptians to hide tomb entrances, create traps, bury treasures deep underground. The Valley of the Kings reflects this growing fear. Even eternity required defense. Golden masks and divine transformation. Elite mummies often wore gold masks, elaborate coffins, painted symbols. Gold symbolized immortality, divine flesh, eternal sunlight. The dead king was becoming godlike. Mummification reflects a central Egyptian belief. Order must resist decay. The body naturally breaks apart. Time destroys memory. But ritual, magic, and sacred care could push back against destruction. The mummy as sacred symbol. Today, mummies often appear in horror stories, but originally they represented something far deeper, humanity's refusal to surrender to oblivion. They are physical expressions of hope against mortality. Closing beneath the sealed tomb. Deep beneath the desert sands, a sealed chamber rests untouched in darkness. Within it lies a wrapped figure covered in linen and gold, surrounded by sacred symbols meant to guide the soul beyond death. Oil lamps have long since gone dark, priests are gone, empires have vanished. Yet the mummy remains, silent guardian of an ancient dream, that through ritual, memory, and sacred preservation, a human soul might endure forever beyond the reach of time itself. Episode 28. The Pyramids, mountains of stone built for eternity. Across the deserts of Egypt, massive stone mountains rise against the horizon. Ancient, silent, almost impossible. The pyramids are among humanity's greatest mysteries, not merely tombs, but cosmic monuments built to challenge death itself. To the Egyptians, these colossal structures were sacred machines designed to help kings ascend into eternity. Stairways to the sky. The pyramids were built for one purpose above all, to ensure the eternal survival of the pharaoh. They symbolized ascension, rebirth, transformation into divine existence. The pyramid's sloping sides may have represented rays of sunlight, a staircase to the heavens, the path toward Ra and the stars. The solar connection. The pyramids were deeply connected to Ra. The shining limestone surfaces once reflected sunlight brilliantly, making them appear almost radiant beneath the desert sky. The dead king hoped to join the solar cycle, travel beside Ra, rise again eternally like the sun itself. More than tombs. Though they contained burial chambers, the pyramids were never just graves. They formed part of massive sacred complexes including temples, ceremonial pathways, offering halls, spiritual architecture aligned with the cosmos. Every detail carried symbolic meaning. The pyramid texts. Inside some pyramids, priests carved sacred writings known as the pyramid texts. These are among the oldest religious writings on Earth. They contain spells, hymns, guidance for the dead king, instructions for reaching the afterlife. The pyramid itself became a giant magical vessel. The pharaoh! Among the stars, Egyptians believed the king could ascend into the heavens after death. Some texts describe the pharaoh flying like a falcon, climbing sunbeams, joining eternal stars. The sky became the destination of divine kingship. Building the impossible. The Great Pyramid of Giza required millions of stone blocks, extraordinary organization, decades of labor. To later civilizations, its scale felt almost supernatural. But to Egyptians, such effort was justified. Eternity demanded permanence. Stone against time. Most human creations decay. The pyramids were built specifically to resist erosion, forgetting, collapse, mortality itself. Massive stone became an act of defiance against impermanence, hidden chambers, and sacred mystery. Inside the pyramids, narrow corridors, sealed chambers, hidden passageways create an atmosphere of sacred secrecy. The deeper one traveled, the closer one came to the divine transformation of the king. Darkness itself became ritual space. Cosmic alignment. Many pyramid structures align with stars, cardinal directions, celestial movements. Egyptian architecture mirrored the cosmos. The pyramid was not isolated from the universe. It was designed to participate in it. Protection against chaos. The pyramids also defended against tomb robbers, spiritual threats, disorder after death. Sacred spells, hidden chambers, and massive scale all worked together to preserve eternal order. Even death required protection. The human desire for immortality. At their core, the pyramids reveal something deeply human, the refusal to disappear. The Egyptians poured unimaginable labor into these monuments because they believed memory and identity could survive forever. The pyramid becomes humanity's challenge to oblivion. Symbols beyond Egypt. Over thousands of years, the pyramids became symbols of mystery, sacred geometry, forgotten wisdom, ancient power. Even now, they inspire awe because they feel larger than ordinary history. Beneath the eternal stones, night settles over Giza as cold starlight washes across the towering pyramids, rising from the desert like frozen mountains of time. Deep within hidden chambers, ancient silence still guards the dreams of kings who sought immortality beneath layers of stone and sacred spell. And above them, the stars continue their endless journey across the heavens. Just as the Egyptians believed the souls of their rulers would do for eternity. Episode 29, The Creation Myths of Egypt, How the Gods Built the Universe. Unlike many ancient cultures, Egypt did not preserve only one creation story. Instead, different cities developed different visions of how existence began, who created the world, how the gods emerged, why order exists at all. But beneath all versions lies the same haunting truth. The universe rose from chaos and could one day return to it again. The beginning. Infinite darkness. Nearly every Egyptian creation myth begins the same way. Before creation, there was only none, endless dark water, silence without form, infinite potential. No sky, no earth, no gods, no humanity, only primordial chaos. Ash. The first mound emerges from the waters of none rises, the primordial mound. This mirrors the yearly flooding of the Nile when land emerged again from water. To Egyptians, creation itself resembled rebirth after floodwaters receded. The first land becomes the birthplace of existence, the Heliopolitan creation myth. One of the most famous versions comes from Heliopolis. Here the creator god is Atum or Ra-Atum. He creates himself from none, a self-generated divine being emerging from chaos alone. Creation begins with solitary consciousness awakening in darkness. Birth of the first gods. Atum creates Shu, air, Tefnut, moisture. From them come Geb, earth, Nut, sky. Then Osiris, Isis, Set, Nephthys. The universe unfolds through divine family relationships. Cosmology becomes mythology. Creation through separation. A key Egyptian idea appears again and again. The world is created by separating things. Sky from earth, light from darkness, order from chaos. Structure itself becomes sacred. Without separation, everything collapses back into none. The Memphis creation. Ptah, the creator. In the city of Memphis, creation takes a different form. Here, the god, Ptah creates the universe through thought, speech, divine intention. He imagines the world in his heart, then speaks it into existence. Words become creative force. Another creation myth comes from Hermopolis. This version begins with 8 primordial beings: darkness, hiddenness, endless water, infinity. Together they form the Ogdoad, a chaotic cosmic state before creation. From this balance of primal forces, the first light eventually emerges. Chaos never fully dies. Unlike some religions where creation permanently defeats chaos, Egyptian mythology believes chaos always remains nearby. Apophis still exists. None still surrounds reality. Order must constantly be maintained. Creation is ongoing, not finished. At every sunrise repeats. Creation for Egyptians, creation was not just ancient history. Every dawn repeated the first sunrise. Darkness retreats, light returns, Ra rises again. The world survives another day. The cosmos renews itself continuously. Humanity within the cosmic order. Humans were not outside creation, they were woven into it. People existed within, Ma'at, divine balance, cycles of rebirth, sacred cosmic structure. Daily life reflected universal order. Creation and the Nile. The Nile strongly shaped Egyptian cosmology. Flooding waters followed by fertile land mirrored none, emergence, rebirth, renewal. Nature itself became proof of mythological truth, multiple truths existing together. One remarkable aspect of Egyptian mythology: the Egyptians rarely demanded one correct creation story. Different myths coexisted peacefully. Because mythology was symbolic, not rigid doctrine, truth could have many sacred forms simultaneously. The fragile beauty of existence. All Egyptian creation myths share one deeper message: order is precious because it is fragile. The universe survives through balance, rituals, gods, kingship, sunrise, memory. Without them, chaos waits beneath the surface. Beneath the first dawn, before the world was born, only darkness and endless water existed beneath silent skies that had not yet formed. Then somewhere within the infinite void, the first light appeared. A mound rose from the waters. The gods awakened. The sun climbed into the heavens, and from that sacred moment onward, the universe became a delicate balance between order and chaos, a balance the Egyptians believed must be protected every single day beneath the eternal rising of the sun. Episode 30. Akhenaten, the pharaoh who tried to replace the gods. For thousands of years, Egypt worshipped many gods: Ra, Osiris, Isis, Hathor, Anubis, Horus, and countless others. Their temples covered the land, their priests held enormous power, their myths shaped every part of existence. Then one pharaoh attempted something unthinkable. He tried to erase them all. The rise of Akhenaten. Born as Amenhotep IV, this pharaoh would later rename himself, Akhenaten meaning effective for Aten. Aten was the solar disk, the visible light of the sun itself. Akhenaten believed this force should stand above all other gods. Aten, the solar disk. Unlike earlier solar gods depicted in human or animal form, Aten appeared simply as a glowing sun disk with rays ending in hands. It represented pure sunlight, divine life force, direct cosmic energy. This was a radical shift in Egyptian religion, a revolution against tradition. Akhenaten began dismantling traditional worship. Temples were closed, names of gods erased, priesthoods weakened, old rituals abandoned. Even the powerful cult of Amun faced destruction. Egypt's ancient spiritual system was suddenly under attack from within. A new sacred capital. Akhenaten abandoned the old centers of power and built a new city, Akhetaten, modern Amarna, a city dedicated entirely to Aten. Unlike older dark temples, Aten's sanctuaries were open to sunlight, exposed to the sky, filled with brightness. Light itself became sacred architecture. The pharaoh as sole mediator. Under Akhenaten, ordinary people could not directly access Aten. The pharaoh and his family became the exclusive bridge between humanity and the divine light. This elevated royal authority to an extreme degree. The strange art of Amarna during Akhenaten's reign, Egyptian art changed dramatically. Figures became elongated, thin, strangely humanized, emotionally expressive. Scenes showed family intimacy, affection, natural movement. This was unlike the rigid perfection of earlier Egyptian royal imagery. The Hymn to Aten. One of the most beautiful surviving Egyptian texts is the Great Hymn to Aten. It describes sunlight awakening the world, animals rising at dawn, humanity living through the sun's life-giving power. Nature becomes direct evidence of divine presence. Why the revolution was dangerous. Akhenaten's changes threatened ancient traditions, priestly authority, social stability, cosmic continuity. Egyptian religion depended on balance between many divine forces. Replacing everything with one solar focus disrupted that balance. The silence of the old gods. For a brief moment, Egypt's ancient pantheon nearly disappeared. Temples fell quiet. Names were carved away. Centuries of sacred continuity fractured. It was one of the most dramatic religious transformations in ancient history. The collapse after death. But Akhenaten's revolution did not survive him. After his death, old gods returned, Aten worship faded, temples reopened, his name was condemned and erased. Later rulers attempted to destroy memory of him entirely. The heretic pharaoh. Because of this, Akhenaten became known as the heretic king, a ruler viewed by later Egyptians as dangerously disruptive to cosmic order. His attempt to reshape spirituality had nearly broken sacred tradition itself. A vision ahead of its time? Some historians debate whether Akhenaten introduced one of history's earliest forms of monotheism. Others see Atenism as something different, not denial of all gods, but elevation of one divine force above all others. Either way, his reign remains extraordinary. The tension between unity and tradition. Akhenaten's story reveals something profound about Egyptian spirituality. The Egyptians valued continuity deeply. Their religion survived thousands of years because it adapted slowly, not through sudden revolution. Akhenaten tried to reshape the cosmos too quickly, and the old world resisted, closing beneath the solar disk. The desert wind moves silently through the abandoned ruins of Akhetaten while sunlight pours across broken temples once dedicated to the radiant Aten. The hymns have faded, the priests are gone, the old gods returned long ago, yet the memory of one pharaoh still lingers beneath the Egyptian sun. A ruler who dared to challenge thousands of years of sacred tradition and reshape the divine order itself beneath the blazing disk of heaven. Episode 31, Spirits, Demons and Nightmares of Ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt was not only a world of gods and radiant temples so filled with wandering spirits, hostile entities, underworld guardians, unseen dangers moving through darkness. The Egyptians believed the world was crowded with supernatural beings, some protective, others terrifying, especially at night. A universe filled with spirits. To Egyptians, the unseen world constantly overlapped with the human one. Invisible beings moved through tombs, deserts, rivers, dreams, abandoned places, the underworld itself. Not every supernatural entity was a god. Many were older, stranger, or far less predictable. Demons of the underworld. The Duat contained countless terrifying beings, gate guardians, devourers, serpent creatures, hybrid monsters. Many guarded sacred pathways and demanded names, spells, ritual knowledge. Without preparation, a soul could become trapped or destroyed. The devourers of the dead. Some demons existed specifically to punish the wicked. Most feared was Amit the devourer waiting beside the scales of judgment. Part, crocodile, lion, hippopotamus. If a soul failed judgment, Amit consumed the heart completely. This meant true annihilation, not torment, erasure. Restless spirits of the dead. Not every dead soul found peace. Some spirits became angry, trapped, forgotten, unable to move on. These restless dead could haunt dreams, bring illness, disturb the living. Improper burial or neglected rituals increased this danger. Night as a dangerous time. Darkness carried special fear in Egyptian belief. At night, the sun disappeared, Apophis attacked, underworld forces grew stronger. The boundary between worlds weakened after sunset. Nightmares were sometimes viewed as supernatural encounters. Household protection against spirits. Ordinary Egyptians used amulets, charms, protective images, spoken spells to defend themselves against hostile forces. The home itself required spiritual protection, especially children, pregnant women, the sick were considered vulnerable. Anubis and cemetery spirits. Cemeteries stood at the edge of civilization, between life and death. Jackals roaming tombs likely inspired fear of spirits haunting burial grounds. Anubis protected against these dangers, guarding the sacred boundary between worlds. Dream demons and sleep dreams were not always harmless. Some Egyptians believed hostile entities could enter sleep, causing fear, confusion, illness, spiritual attack. Protective headrests and magical objects were sometimes used to defend sleepers. Serpents of chaos. Snakes appeared repeatedly in Egyptian demonology, hidden, unpredictable, connected to darkness beneath creation. The greatest serpent, Apophis, remained the ultimate embodiment of destructive chaos. Every night his shadow threatened existence itself. Hybrid creatures of the Duat. Egyptian underworld texts describe bizarre beings. Multi-headed guardians, fire-breathing monsters, knife-wielding demons, creatures made of shadow and flame. These entities symbolized fears beyond ordinary reality. The underworld became psychologically terrifying, as well as physically dangerous. Not all demons were evil. Interestingly, some demons served protective roles. Certain fierce entities guarded sacred places, divine gates, tombs, cosmic order. Egyptian spirituality rarely divided beings into simple categories of good and evil. Power depended on context. The desert and the unknown. The desert itself became associated with spirits, danger, supernatural isolation. Beyond the fertile Nile Valley lay a landscape of death-like silence. It felt close to the realm of chaos. Fear as part of cosmic reality. Egyptian religion did not ignore fear. Instead, it incorporated fear directly into cosmology. Monsters existed, chaos existed, darkness was real. But rituals, gods, magic, and sacred knowledge allowed humanity to survive within that dangerous universe. Closing beneath the desert night. The sun sinks beneath the western horizon. Egypt slowly disappears into darkness. Temple fires flicker in the distance, while unseen shapes move silently beyond the edges of torchlight. Far below the earth, strange guardians wait beside the gates of the Duat, watching every soul that passes into the night. And somewhere within the ancient darkness between dreams and death, the spirits of Egypt still wander, restless, protective, terrifying, and eternal beneath the endless stars. Episode 32. Festivals, rituals, and sacred celebrations of ancient Egypt. Ancient Egyptian religion was not silent or distant. It was alive in music, torchlight, processions, sacred feasts, public celebrations beneath the blazing sun. The gods were not worshipped only inside dark temples. At certain moments, they emerged into the world itself, and all of Egypt celebrated with them. Festivals as cosmic renewal. Egyptian festivals were not mere entertainment. They renewed Ma'at, divine order, the bond between gods and humanity. Every ritual helped sustain the balance of the universe itself. Celebration became sacred duty. The Opet Festival. One of the grandest celebrations was the Opet Festival, held in Thebes. It honored Amun, Mut, Khonsu, the great divine family. Sacred statues traveled in ceremonial boats between temples while crowds gathered in celebration. The festival renewed kingship, divine power, cosmic harmony. Processions of the gods. During festivals, cult statues of the gods left their hidden sanctuaries. Priests carried them through the streets, beneath canopies, surrounded by incense, music, chanting, dancing. For ordinary people, this was one of the rare moments they could come close to divine presence. Music as sacred offering. Music filled Egyptian ritual life. Drums, sistra rattles, flutes, harps, rhythmic chanting. Sound itself was believed to honor the gods, repel chaos, create spiritual harmony. Ritual music mirrored cosmic balance. Festivals of Hathor, celebrations for Hathor, were especially joyful, dancing, drinking, singing, ecstatic movement. These festivals embraced pleasure, beauty, emotional release as sacred experiences. Joy itself became a form of worship. Rituals for the dead festivals also honored ancestors and the deceased. Families visited tombs bringing food, flowers, incense, offerings. The dead were not considered gone forever. They remained part of the living community. The beautiful festival of the valley. One important celebration allowed the dead and living symbolically to reunite. During the beautiful festival of the valley, people crossed the Nile to visit Western necropolises and ancestral tombs. Death and life became connected through ritual remembrance. The pharaoh's sacred role. The king played a central role in many ceremonies, presenting offerings, performing sacred rites, renewing divine legitimacy. The pharaoh acted as intermediary between gods, humanity, cosmic order. Ritual sustained kingship itself. Solar rituals and dawn ceremonies. Each sunrise held sacred significance. Temple rituals greeted the rising sun with hymns, incense, offerings, opening of shrine doors. Every dawn repeated the original act of creation. The world awakened alongside Ra. Rituals against chaos. Ceremonies also defended against dark forces. Priests performed rites against apophis, demons, disorder, spiritual corruption. Some rituals involved destroying symbolic figures, burning images, reciting protective spells. Religion actively fought chaos, the Nile and sacred time. Many Egyptian festivals aligned with flooding cycles, harvests, celestial events. Nature itself structured sacred time. The rhythms of the Nile became the rhythms of spirituality. Temples as living cosmic centers. Egyptian temples were not places for weekly congregation like modern religions. They functioned as houses of the gods, ritual engines maintaining creation, sacred centers connecting heaven and earth. Festivals briefly opened this hidden divine world to the people. Celebration against mortality. At their deepest level, Egyptian festivals affirmed life itself. In a world filled with death, chaos, uncertainty, celebration became resistance against despair. Music, food, ritual, and community reaffirmed cosmic continuity.
Closing.
Beneath the festival fire's night glows across ancient Egypt as torches flicker beside temple walls covered in gold and painted stars. Music echoes through crowded streets while sacred boats drift slowly along the Nile beneath the moonlight. Priests raise incense toward the heavens as the people celebrate beneath the gaze of their gods. And for one sacred moment, the boundaries between divine and human worlds grow thin, woven together through song, ritual, memory, and the eternal rhythm of the Nile itself. Episode 33, Ma'at, Truth, Balance, and the Order of the Universe. More than any god, more than any king, one idea stood at the center of ancient Egyptian civilization. Ma'at. Not merely a goddess, but the principle holding reality itself. She represented truth, balance, justice, harmony, cosmic order. Without Ma'at, the universe would collapse into chaos. The foundation of existence. To Egyptians, creation was fragile. Order did not exist automatically. It had to be maintained, defended, renewed constantly. Ma'at was the invisible structure preventing reality from falling back into darkness, violence, disorder, primordial chaos. The feather of truth. Ma'at is often depicted as a woman wearing an ostrich feather. That feather became one of the most sacred symbols in Egyptian spirituality. It represented truth, moral balance, purity of heart. In death, every soul would face it. The weighing of the heart. One of the most famous Egyptian beliefs occurs in the Hall of Judgment. After death, a soul's heart is weighed against the feather of Ma'at. If the heart is heavy with cruelty, dishonesty, imbalance, the soul fails judgment. If balanced, the soul may continue into eternal life. Truth as cosmic force. For Egyptians, truth was not simply honesty between people. Truth maintained the universe itself. Lies, injustice, corruption, violence all strengthened chaos. To live truthfully meant participating in cosmic stability. The pharaoh as guardian of Ma'at. The king's primary duty was not conquest alone. It was to uphold Ma'at. A good ruler ensured justice, stability, proper ritual, social harmony. If the king failed, chaos threatened Egypt itself. Ra and the daily renewal of Ma'at. Every sunrise symbolized Ma'at surviving another night. Ra's victory over Apophis was not guaranteed forever. The universe required continual renewal. Creation was an ongoing struggle against disorder. At Isfet, the opposite of Ma'at. The force opposing Ma'at was Isfet, representing chaos, violence, falsehood, collapse, destruction. Apophis embodies Isfet most completely. Egyptian mythology constantly balances these two forces. Ma'at in everyday life. Ma'at was not only cosmic, it shaped ordinary behavior, fairness in trade, honesty, family duty, respect for others, proper conduct. Morality became woven into the structure of the universe itself. Temples and ritual order. Priests performed rituals daily to sustain Ma'at, offerings, hymns, purification rites, sacred ceremonies. Religion was not only devotion, it was maintenance of reality, harmony. Instead of absolute perfection, Egyptians did not believe life could become flawless. Conflict, death, and suffering still existed. Ma'at meant balance, not the total absence of difficulty. The universe survived through equilibrium. The heart as moral memory. The heart recorded everything, actions, intentions, moral choices. Nothing could be hidden at judgment. The soul carried its own truth within itself. Ma'at as cosmic fragility. One profound Egyptian insight appears again and again. Order is delicate. Civilization, justice, peace, even sunrise, all require continuous effort. Without care, chaos always waits nearby. The legacy of Ma'at. For thousands of years, Ma'at shaped Egyptian civilization, law, kingship, religion, morality, architecture, daily life. It became one of the most enduring spiritual concepts in human history. Closing beneath the feather of truth, deep within the hall of judgment, a single feather rests motionless beside the scales of eternity. Before it stand the souls of the dead, their hearts carrying every truth they ever lived. And beyond the silent chambers of the underworld, the sun rises once more above the Nile. Another day in which Ma'at still holds the universe together, balancing light against darkness, order against chaos, and truth against the endless void waiting beyond creation. Episode 34, The Egyptian Soul, Kaba, Shadow, and the True Name. To the ancient Egyptians, a human being was not made of body alone. The soul was far more complex. A person consisted of multiple spiritual parts, some mortal, some eternal, some vulnerable, some capable of surviving forever beyond death. Understanding these hidden aspects became essential for immortality itself. The soul is many things. Unlike many later religions, Egyptian spirituality did not imagine a single simple soul. Instead, human existence was layered and divided into sacred components: body, life force, personality, spiritual essence, shadow, name. To survive death, all of these had to remain in harmony. The Ka was the vital essence born alongside a person. It represented life energy, spiritual vitality, sustaining force. After death, the Ka still required food, offerings, ritual care. This is why tombs contained offerings and images of abundance. The dead continued to exist spiritually. The Ba represented personality, individuality, emotional identity. It is often depicted as a bird with a human head. Unlike the body, the Ba could move freely between worlds, through the tomb, into the realm of the gods. It carried the uniqueness of the person. The Ak, the transformed spirit. If the soul successfully passed through the afterlife, it could become the Ak, a radiant, transfigured spirit existing among the gods and stars. The Ak represented successful immortality, spiritual power, eternal existence beyond earthly limitation. The shadow. Hidden self. Even the shadow was considered spiritually important. A shadow was not merely absence of light, it was part of one's essence, always connected, always following. Shadows could possess supernatural significance and vulnerability. The Ren, the true name. One of the most sacred aspects of identity was the Ren, the true name. As long as a name was remembered and spoken, part of the person continued to exist. This is why Egyptians carved names repeatedly into tombs, statues, monuments. To erase a name was to attack immortality itself. Why preservation mattered. Mummification now becomes clearer. The preserved body acted as an anchor for the soul's many parts. Ka returning for offerings, Ba recognizing the body, Ak emerging after transformation. Destruction threatened spiritual fragmentation. Spells for the soul's journey. Texts like the Book of the Dead, pyramid texts, coffin texts provided guidance for navigating the afterlife. The soul required knowledge, passwords, protection, sacred formulas. Immortality demanded preparation. Death as transformation, not end. Egyptian belief did not focus on escaping the world. Instead, death transformed existence into another state. The soul continued, traveling, judging, remembering, evolving. Life and death formed one continuous cycle. Moral balance and survival. Not every soul achieved eternal life. Immortality depended on moral balance, proper rituals, preservation, remembrance. Existence after death remained fragile. Tombs as soul machines. Egyptian tombs were carefully designed spiritual structures, preserving memory, housing the Ka, protecting the Ba, guiding transformation into Ak. Every wall, symbol, and ritual served the soul's survival. Humanity between mortality and eternity. The Egyptian understanding of the soul reveals something profound. Humans are both fragile and cosmic, part earthly, part divine. The soul stretches between temporary life and eternal existence, closing beneath the stars of eternity. Deep within a silent tomb, a preserved body rests beneath painted ceilings covered in stars. But the soul does not sleep. The Ba moves like a bird through the night. The Kea waits beside offerings. The hidden name echoes through eternity. And somewhere beyond the mortal world, an Ak rises radiant among the heavens. The final transformation of a human soul seeking immortality beneath the eternal stars of Egypt. Episode 36, The Lost Libraries, Hidden Wisdom, and Forgotten Knowledge of Ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt was not only a civilization of temples and tombs, it was also a civilization of sacred knowledge, hidden writings, priestly wisdom, astronomy, medicine, magic, and cosmic understanding preserved across thousands of years. Much of it is now lost, destroyed by time, conquest, fire, neglect, and the slow erosion of memory itself. The sacred power of writing. To Egyptians, writing was divine. Hieroglyphs were not merely symbols. They carried spiritual force, magical meaning, sacred permanence. The god, Thoth, lord of wisdom and writing, was believed to have gifted language to humanity itself. Scribes, keepers of civilization. Scribes held immense importance in Egyptian society. They preserved rituals, myths, laws, historical records, funerary texts, astronomical observations. Knowledge became sacred responsibility. To write was to preserve reality against forgetting. The House of Life. Many temples contained institutions called Per-Ankh or House of Life. These functioned as libraries, scriptoria, schools, ritual centers. Within them, priests copied sacred texts and guarded hidden wisdom. Knowledge as magic. In Egypt, knowledge itself possessed supernatural power. To know a god's name, the correct spell, sacred symbols, meant gaining influence over unseen forces. Wisdom and magic were deeply intertwined. Astronomy and the sacred sky. Egyptian priests carefully observed stars, planetary movements, solstices, celestial cycles. The sky functioned as calendar, cosmic map, divine order made visible. Many temples aligned precisely with astronomical events. Ancient Egyptian medicine. Egyptian healers possessed surprisingly advanced medical knowledge. Wound treatment, herbal remedies, surgeries, dentistry, anatomy. Yet, medicine remained tied to ritual, incantation, spiritual protection. Healing combined science and sacred belief. The myth of the lost books of Thoth. Legends arose surrounding mysterious books supposedly written by Thoth. These texts were said to contain secrets of the cosmos, power over spirits, hidden magical knowledge, mastery of heaven and earth. But such wisdom was often portrayed as dangerous. Forbidden knowledge could destroy the unworthy. The Library of Alexandria. Though built later during the Hellenistic period, the Library of Alexandria became symbolically linked to Egypt's long tradition of sacred learning. It sought to gather all human knowledge, texts from across civilizations, philosophy, science, mythology. Its eventual destruction became one of history's greatest tragedies. The fragility of knowledge. Egypt understood something painful. Knowledge can vanish, empires fall, Languages die, texts burn, entire worldviews disappear if memory fails. This fear appears constantly in Egyptian spirituality. Forgotten temples and buried wisdom. Many ancient texts were lost forever. Decayed papyrus, destroyed libraries, collapsed temples, looted tombs. What survives today is only a fragment of what once existed. The silence surrounding lost knowledge became part of Egypt's mystery. The priesthood as guardians of cosmic order. Priests were not only religious figures, they maintained calendars, rituals, astronomy, sacred archives, temple economies. Knowledge sustained Ma'at itself. Without understanding, order weakened. Ancient Egypt as a civilization of memory. More than almost any ancient culture, Egypt fought against forgetting, carving stone inscriptions, preserving names, building monuments, copying sacred texts repeatedly. Writing became immortality. The mystery that still remains. Even after centuries of archaeology, much about Egypt remains unknown. Undeciphered meanings, lost rituals, destroyed myths, hidden chambers, vanished books. Part of Egypt's power comes from what has disappeared. Its silence still speaks. Closing beneath the ruined libraries. Deep within abandoned temple halls, dust settles across shattered columns and fragments of forgotten papyrus. The voices of scribes faded long ago. The sacred books were scattered by time. Entire libraries vanished into darkness. Yet somewhere beneath the ruins, beneath the sand and silence, the memory of ancient wisdom still lingers, waiting like hidden hieroglyphs in the dark, guarding the last echoes of a civilization that believed knowledge itself could outlive death.